Election Commission seeks clarification from parties, organizations and candidates for violating code of conduct. One response received so far. Two reports presented in today's National Assembly meeting. Members urge government to ensure fear-free environment for the upcoming election. Prime Minister Sushila Karki stresses development projects must respect cultural heritage. Kathmandu Tarai Madhe's fast-track reports 45% progress. India and EU announced landmark trade deal. European Commission President and Indian Prime Minister call the deal historic. North Korea fires multiple ballistic missiles according to Japan as Washington and Seoul consider changing their defense posture against Pyongyang. And new Diamond Women's team advanced to the final of the ongoing Tiger Cup National and International Invitational Club Championship, defeating Nepal Police. Good evening, I am Ipulagi Singh Lama and this is NTV World Primetime News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepali time. Across the globe, it's 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in details. The Election Commission has sought clarifications from 7 individuals and organizations, including political parties, candidates, social groups and schools for allegedly violating the Election Code of Conduct. Janasewa Party candidate Januka Pathak was asked about social media posts defaming another candidate and party, while UML's Mahesh Basnet and Labour Culture Party were also questioned for potential violations. Other candidates, including Kamal Bhushal, Dr. Nicholas and Balendra Shah, were asked to clarify social media content, while the Nepal Health Volunteer Association faced scrutiny over holding a trade union convention and a school teacher's transfer was questioned. So far, the Commission has issued 15 clarification requests, but only one response has been received. Now, 2 key reports were presented in today's National Assembly meeting. The Legislative Management Committee's report on the Film Bill 2081 and the Federal Strengthening and National Concern Committee's annual report for fiscal year 2081-82BS. Chairperson Tulsa Kumari Dahal emphasized that the film bill will develop the industry, promote tourism and regulate film screening and promotion. Lawmakers urged the government to ensure the upcoming election is fair, clean and fare-free, and encouraged voters to support candidates who act in the nation's interest. They also requested updates on the Commission investigating damages from the Gen Z screenings, raised concerns over increasing wildlife attacks in national parks, and highlighted the rising outbreak of diseases like rubella in Starlai, calling for better health services and preparedness. The National Assembly will next meet on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Now, the electoral contest in Constituency 5 of Nepal's Chapa district has moved beyond a race between individual candidates, reflecting a broader contest of political ideologies and influence. As a result, security considerations have gained importance, with the constituency identified by authorities as sensitive ahead of the vote. Addressing these concerns, Chief District Officer Sivaram Gilal said that 24 candidates have filed nominations and that arrangements are in place to conduct the election peacefully. To support a fair and secure electoral process, the government has established a joint election cell to coordinate among multiple agencies. More than 11,000 security personnel, including police, armed police and the army, will be deployed across the district under a 3-tier security framework. The election is being viewed not only as the casting of ballots, but as a test of political accountability, security preparedness and community coordination, factors that are expected to shape the overall conduct of the vote in Chapa. Meanwhile, the Children as a Zone of Peace (CZOP) national campaign has said its serious attention has been drawn towards the activities where children are used for election publicity against election code of conduct. The campaign objected, saying it has received the information that children were found involved in rallies used with T-shirt having election symbol of political parties and photo of candidates, and engaged in different election-related program carrying party's flag in school uniform. The CZOP urged the Election Commission for effective monitoring of Election Code of Conduct and action against those violating it. CZOP Chairperson Tilotaram Podal requested to establish children and schools as zone of peace by using children in political program. Such activities carried out against Children Act 2075 and Schools as Zone of Peace National Framework and Implementation Guidelines 2068 make direct impact on children's psychology, their security and schools' educational programs, Powdell argued, adding it also makes negative impact on children's future and entire nation in a long-term manner. We'll take a short break here. More news coming up. You're watching NTV World. Welcome back. Prime Minister Sushila Karki emphasized that development projects, including the Kathmandu-Tarai Madhesh Fast Track, must not affect religious beliefs or cultural heritage. During her inspection, she directed officials to address local concerns seriously and ensure open spaces are left while constructing physical structures. The 70.977-kilometer expressway managed by the Nepali Army has reached around 45% physical progress, with over 87 bridges, including some up to 82 meters tall and 7 tunnels under construction. Despite slight delays due to DPR approval, the Army aims to complete the project by the Nepali month of Chaitra 2083 BS within the estimated cost of 213 billion Nepali rupees, making special efforts to meet the project's objectives. Now in Kailali, flood and landslide survivors have been forced to live in forests for years. In Panerugda, Ward number 4 of Chure Rural Municipality, displaced families are surviving in the middle of the forest. Survivors say they were displaced after a landslide hit Gaujana of Chure Rural Municipality 4 in 2077. Currently, more than 25 families are living in temporary shelters in the area. Vishnu Devi Maharaj's family has been living under a makeshift shelter for 5 years. The landslide in 2077 destroyed her home and 16 ropani of land, displacing her 5-member family. She says they had no choice but to return to the forest to survive. Now, more than 25 families in the area continue to live under temporary shelters like Vishnu Devi and Kamala. Some displaced by the 2077 BS flood and other natural disasters have gone to India for work, while others have returned to landslide-affected areas. Although the Forest Office removed many people in 2079 BS, citing encroachment, the most affected survivors are still forced to live in the forest. Now moving on, among the many disaster risks Nepal faces, forest and wildfires have emerged as a growing concern. An analysis of forest fire incidents over approximately 120 days from February to June shows that fires are triggered by both human activities and climate factors, allowing them to spread rapidly and cause significant damage. In 2023-24, Nepal recorded 965 forest and wildfire incidents, the highest in recent years. Estimated damages reached nearly 874 million Nepali rupees. Surkhet and Bardea rank among the districts with the highest fire risk, while Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur fall under the low-risk category. Overall, 9 districts are classified as high risk, 13 as moderate risk and 55 as low risk, providing a clear basis for prioritizing prevention, preparedness and response. The National Forest Fire Preparedness and Response Action Plan 2026 that has been introduced this year focuses on strengthening public awareness and regulation managing forest and forest-based fuels, reinforcing weather forecasting and early warning systems, among others. Now, Health Minister Dr. Sudha Gautam emphasized that provincial and local governments must invest more to ensure effective implementation of the health insurance program. While inspecting a province hospital, Parbat, she noted that the federal budget is insufficient and many hospitals have complained of delays in receiving funds. The Health Ministry itself provided around 1 billion Nepali rupees after the Finance Ministry cited budget constraints. Minister Gautam urged local representatives to allocate funds for health insurance in the next budget and stressed the need for adequate medicines, human resources and equipment in public hospitals. She reaffirmed the government's commitment to treating those injured in the Gen Z movement of September 8 and 9, 2025 and called for support to hold the March 5 election in a fair and fear-free environment. Hospital chairperson Yam Pariyar presented a memorandum demanding resources and 30 million Nepali rupees in health insurance. International news coming up next. For now, a short break. The European Union and India have announced a landmark trade deal after nearly 2 decades of negotiations aimed at deepening economic ties amid tensions with the US. The agreement was confirmed following a meeting between European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who called the deal historic. The pact will significantly reduce tariffs and expand market access, allowing free trade of goods between the EU's 27 states and India, together accounting for nearly 25% of global GDP and a market of 2 billion people. Tariffs on most exports, including chemicals, machinery, electrical equipment, aircraft and spacecraft, will be gradually eliminated, while duties on motor vehicles, currently up to 110%, will drop to 10% under a quota of 250,000 vehicles. Now, US President Donald Trump has announced he is raising tariffs on South Korean imports to 25% after accusing Seoul of not living up to a trade deal reached last year. Trump said he would increase levies on South Korea from 15% across a range of products, including automobiles, lumber, pharmaceuticals, and all other reciprocal tariffs. Trump said South Korean lawmakers have been slow to approve the deal, while they have acted swiftly to reduce their tariffs in line with the transaction agreed to. South Korea says it had not been given official notice of the decision to raise tariffs on some of its goods and wanted urgent talks with Washington over the issue. It added that South Korea's Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwon, who is currently in Canada, will visit Washington as soon as possible to meet U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Moving on, North Korea fired what appeared to be 2 ballistic missiles toward the Sea of Japan on Tuesday, marking its second launch of the month. Japan's Coast Guard and South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed the missiles, which reportedly have already splashed down. The launches come just hours before South Korea's leader visited China for a summit and a day after a visit to Seoul by the Pentagon's third-ranking official, Elbridge Colby. Pyongyang has significantly increased missile testing in recent years. Ahead of its first ruling party Congress in 5 years, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered the expansion and modernization of the country's missile production, signaling ongoing military ambitions and preparations for the upcoming conclave. Now, the Russian Army's Chief of Staff, Valery Gerasimov, visits troops in eastern Ukraine, according to images released by the Russian Defense Ministry. The announcement of his visit came days after U.S. brokered trilateral talks between Russian and Ukrainian negotiators aimed at ending the nearly 4-year conflict. The next round is expected to take place on February 1st, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Russian Defense Ministry, however, did not disclose the exact location or date of Gerasimov's visit, citing security reasons. The conflict, which began with Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, has resulted in heavy casualties and widespread destruction. Now, a top U.S. immigration official is expected to leave the U.S. city of Minneapolis in what may mark a shift in the White House's tone after the fatal shooting of a second U.S. citizen by federal officers over the weekend. As Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino and some immigration agents leave, President Donald Trump's border star Tom Homan will begin leading on the ground efforts in city after the fatal shooting of Alex Pretty on Saturday escalated tensions. Trump's decision may indicate the administration's interest in walking back more aggressive federal action in his nationwide immigration crackdown. Despite the announcement, online tracking shows immigration raids have continued. Now, firefighters in the Australian state of Victoria are battling at least 6 major fires as a record-breaking heatwave hits the country's southeast. 2 fires are currently burning at emergency level, according to local broadcaster ABC News. Several communities have been issued emergency warnings to either evacuate, watch and wait, or shelter in place. Fire officials warn that the situation is changing rapidly and have asked locals to stay up to date with the latest warnings. The Bureau of Meteorology says that parts of the state have seen all-time temperature highs, with one area hitting a high of 48.9 degrees Celsius. Melbourne has recorded a temperature of 41 Celsius. Now, the Trump administration will invest $1.6 billion in a U.S. critical minerals firm, marking officials' latest push to reduce China's dominance over the rare earth sector. The agreement with USA Rare Earth, which will give the government a stake in the firm, emerged days after U.S. President Donald Trump claimed to have secured the framework of a deal over Greenland, which he said includes access to rare earth minerals. It follows similar investments by the U.S. government in minerals companies since Trump returned to the White House a year ago. Officials want to boost U.S. production of minerals essential to everything from smartphones to defense technologies. More international news and sports update coming up after the break. Stay with us. An outbreak of the deadly Nipah virus in India's West Bengal state has sparked concern in parts of Asia, with some tightening screening measures at airports. Thailand has started screening passengers at 3 airports that receive flights from West Bengal. Nepal has also begun screening arrivals at Kathmandu Airport and other land border points with India. 5 healthcare workers in West Bengal were infected by the virus early this month, one of whom is in a critical condition. Some 110 people who were in contact with them have been quarantined. The virus can spread from animals to humans. It has a high death range ranging from 40% to 75%, as there is no vaccine or medicine to treat it. The city of Greensboro in North Carolina of the United States was blanketed in snow as a powerful winter storm moved across large parts of the United States, bringing icy conditions, travel disruptions, and hazardous weather to the region. Snowfall covered roads, parks, and residential areas, transforming the city into a winter landscape. While authorities urged caution, some residents took advantage of the conditions, with children sledding down snow-covered hills and families gathering outdoors to enjoy the rare accumulation. The winter storm system has affected multiple states, prompting weather advisories and warnings across the southeastern and eastern United States. Forecasters said the storm brought a combination of heavy snow, freezing rain, and strong winds, increasing the risk of dangerous driving conditions and power outages. Meteorologists said the storm is expected to move eastward, with conditions gradually improving as temperatures rise. Japan is setting up early voting stations ahead of campaigning for the upcoming lower house election, though some municipalities reported delays due to the short preparation period. Some local governments are introducing measures to speed up preparations. Ichinomiya City in Aichi Prefecture has switched from using 3-fold postcards for admission slips to single-leaf postcards printed on both sides, citing shorter production times. An election official said the priority was ensuring timely delivery, adding that all possible steps were taken to complete preparations as quickly as possible. Technology giant Meta is set to trial premium subscription for Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp users in the coming months in its latest experiment with paid services. The new offerings would give access to features including expanded artificial intelligence capabilities. Under the plan, access to the platform's core services would remain free to use. The firm also plans to test subscriptions for features such as its Vibes video generation app, which the firm says can bring your ideas to life with new AI visual creation tools. The company described it as a limited test to understand whether the ability to publish an increased volume of posts with links adds additional value for subscribers. Time now for sports update. New Diamond Sports Club defeated Nepal Police Club to advance to the women's final of the 6th Tiger Cup National and International Invitational Club Championship. In today's match at the volleyball court of Pokhara Rangashala, New Diamond secured a 3-0 straight set victory over Police to claim their place in the final. New Diamond won the first set 25-11, the second set 25-19, and the third set 25-20. With this win, New Diamond reached the final with 9 points from 3 matches. Earlier today, Thailand defeated Tribhuvan Army Club 3-0 in straight sets, winning the first set 25-11, the second set 25-21, and the third set 25-16. The championship, organized by Tiger Group of Pokhara, Nepal, will continue until 31st of January, with 6 teams participating in the men's category and 5 teams in the women's category. The top 2 teams in the single round-robin format will face off for the title. The women's final will be held on the 30th and the men's final on 31st. Morocco's Lake Aguilmame Azeza has hosted the 9th edition of the International Cold Water Swimming Competition, a remarkable sporting event combining physical challenge with the breathtaking beauty of the mountain landscape. The competition saw strong participation from swimmers of various nationalities. The event took place at an exceptional time, coinciding with the snowfall currently affecting the region. This added a touch of magic to the lake and the surrounding natural beauty, transforming the competition into a unique sporting and touristic spectacle, reflecting the richness and diversity of the Middle Atlas's natural attractions. These events are part of a series of sporting and environmental activities aimed at promoting the region's natural and touristic potential and strengthening its position as a prime destination for mountain sports and adventure enthusiasts, particularly those drawn to rugged terrain and cold climates. Now, before wrapping up, here's a look into the headlines once again. Election Commission seeks clarifications from parties, organisation and candidates for violating code of conduct. One response received so far. Two reports presented in today's National Assembly meeting. Members urged government to ensure fear-free environment for the upcoming election. Prime Minister Sushila Karki stresses development projects must respect cultural heritage. Kathmandu Tharai Madhya's fast-track reports 45% progress. India and EU announced landmark trade deal. European Commission President and Indian Prime Minister called the deal historic. North Korea fires multiple ballistic missiles according to Japan as Washington and Seoul consider changing their defense posture against Pyongyang. And new Diamond Women's team advanced to the final of the ongoing Tiger Cup National and International Invitational Club Championship, defeating Nepal Police. That is all for the moment here on NTV World Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepali time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website www.nepaltelevision.com. I am Ipulagi Singh Lama. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Every dawn begins with a promise. Light will return. For the people of Nepal, the sun is not just a star in the sky. It is an eternal witness to labor, to love, to loss, and to life itself. The scriptures call it Aditya, the giver of vitality, the sustainer of truth. Farmers bow to it before planting their seeds. Mothers pray to it for the well-being of their children. To the people of Nepal, the sun is not a distant deity. It is divinity made visible, and that reverence is best manifested in Chhat. The festival where dwellers of the plains gather to thank both the rising and the setting sun.
This Chhath festival is a Hindu Vedic festival which is not only celebrated in India and Nepal these days. It has transcended to all the frontiers. Previously, it used to be celebrated in India and Nepal only. But these days, the devotees who belong to Hinduism or from Islamic community, even they are celebrating abroad. Since this festival is the celebration of the nature and it promotes organic way of life, it promotes pollution-free atmosphere and environment, this festival has reached to all the walks of life because it promotes equality. As you could see that the devotees at the same pond, no matter whichever caste or class they belong, they are considered to be equal.
The roots of this festival lie deep in the ancient plains of Mithila, a cultural landscape shared by Nepal and India, where faith, soil, and sunlight have long shaped life itself. From its earliest mention in the Vedas to its celebration today, Chhath has journeyed through centuries and civilizations, changing form, yet never losing its spirit of purity, discipline, and gratitude.
It's a 5-day festival. The first day is called Marua Mas Barnai. Barnai means to refrain from. In that day, the devotees take a pledge to refrain from consuming non-vegetarian food and garlic and onion made food items. And the second day is called Nahai Khai. In that second day, the devotees first take bath, then offer prayers to the sun god, and then consume pure food. The third day is called Kharna, and in that day, the devotees take fast till evening and break the fast with the prasad of kheer and banana. On the fourth day, we could see the Sandhya Arghya, that is evening prayers. All the prasada which is offered to the sun god, each and every prasada is offered to the sun god by standing in the waters. And the same thing is repeated in the fifth day, that is called Usa Arghya. Usa means the prayer for the rising sun.
The festival unfolds over 5 days, each with distinct rituals and a shared focus on devotion. Families prepare offerings, maintain sacred spaces, and observe fasts while communities gather along water bodies, including river banks and ponds, to offer prayers to the rising and the setting sun. Women play a central role in organizing the rituals and guiding younger generations, while men and children assist in preparations. The collective participation reinforces family bonds and community cohesion, bridging generations in a shared cultural practice.
The women of our part of the world, they do rigorous fasting for the long life of their husband and children. They are at the central role in this festival. छठमा महिलाले मात्रै पूजा गर्ने होइन, पुरुषलाई पनि छठमा जोसुकैले पनि छठमा पूजा गर्न पाउनुहुन्छ. यहाँ कुनै जेन्डरको बायस छैन. तर हाम्रो वुमेन इम्पावरमेन्टलाई कहाँसम्म यसले रोल प्ले गर्दो रहेछ, सस्टेनेबल डेभलपमेन्ट गोल्समै हेर्ने हो भने जेन्डर इक्वालिटी कुरा गर्छ, वुमेन इम्पावरमेन्टको कुरा गर्छ. देयर इज नो युज अफ संस्कृत मन्त्र, देयर इज नो रोल अफ पण्डित, देयर इज नो एनी होली टेक्स्ट which will prescribe the modality of the Chhath celebration.
The festival emphasizes the cleanliness of rivers, ponds, and the banks, which are central to the rituals. These practices reflect an understanding that devotion is inseparable from responsibility towards nature. The festival demonstrates how religious observances can reinforce sustainable interaction with natural resources, promote environmental stewardship, and instill awareness about protecting water, soil, and the surrounding environment.
Once the Chhath festival concludes, we forget the messages which Chhath festival intends to give. Chhath talks about the pollution-free water bodies, the pollution-free sand, the pollution-free soil, and the pollution-free atmosphere. But the thing is that we often forget these messages. And the governments could uphold these messages if they could come up with certain policies while enlisting this Chhath and or promoting this Chhath festival in the UNESCO or in some other policy mechanism. They could draft some policies, or they could draft some provincial laws which could enlist our water bodies as a natural body.
Chhath also supports local economies and traditional practices. Families rely on only locally sourced fruits, vegetables, and bamboo baskets, while vendors sell traditional items for the festival. Home-prepared offerings and locally produced goods strengthen community livelihoods and ensure that cultural indigenous skills and knowledge are preserved. By linking tradition with practical benefits, Chhath sustains both social and economic aspects of the communities and celebrates it.
This festival could be used as a bridge to connect the people from all walks of life, to connect the people from hill and tarai, to connect the people from each and every community member. So this festival could emerge as a festival of social cohesion. And beyond this, we could unite our community in a bond of equality and in a bond of community spirit.
From Mithila to Kathmandu and beyond, Chhath bridges regions and generations. Its observance in urban centers and abroad shows how cultural traditions can adapt while maintaining the festival's essence. The rituals connect younger generations with their heritage and ensure the continuity of cultural knowledge. The festival continues to adapt to modern contexts while maintaining its historical roots, ensuring that the traditions and responsibilities it embodies remain relevant for future generations.
The Holy Scriptures also talks about Chhath festival. Lord Sita had performed Chhath festival after Lord Rama came from Banvasa. And once Ram Rajya was established, Goddess Sita had performed Chhath for the well-being of Ram Rajya, for the well-being of the Ayodhya people. It's in Ramayana, Sita had performed Chhath, and in Mahabharata, we could see that Kunti and Pandavas, they had also performed Chhath.
Practices become culture, good practices become religion, and Chhath reflects a tradition that transcends boundaries, uniting communities across the Mithila region. In the flatlands, where summer temperatures often exceed 40 degrees Celsius, the sun becomes both sustainer and foe. Yet, despite the intense heat, devotees endure fasting, prepare offerings, and perform rituals with unwavering discipline and reverence. In facing the sun in this way, they demonstrate resilience, faith, and a profound connection to nature, showing that devotion can persist even under the harshest conditions.
Trimmed mustache, mirrored shades, and an unmistakable smile, Tenzing Norgay Sherpa climbs a steep hill in Khumbu. It's May 1991. After 38 years, he's returning to meet his old climbing partner, Sir Edmund Hillary, the man with whom he first stood atop the world.
Tenzing, good to see you. My goodness. Well, yeah. Hi, Vicky. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Hi. Long time,
Yes, certainly. Did you have a good walk up?
Very well.
Good.
Fine.
Sagarmatha, head of the sky. Chomolungma, the mother goddess of the world, or simply Mount Everest. A mountain with many names, yet for generations it meant only one thing: the impossible. Since the 1920s, climbers from around the world had tried to conquer it. Many never returned. Avalanches, storms, frostbite, the mountain refused them all. Then on 29 May 1953, Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay Sherpa of Nepal stood together on top of the world. The world woke up to the headline, "Everest is conquered."
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is the news. Mount Everest has been conquered by members of the British expedition. The news reached London in a message to the Times. It said that Mr. E.P. Hillary, a New Zealander, and Tenzing Bhutia, a Sherpa, had reached the summit last Friday, May 29th.
Among the 35 men in the team that made history was Kancha Sherpa, the last surviving member of that expedition. He passed away in October 2025. He remembered the climb as hard but joyful.
Samulong bona hamile sune basa. Hami ke kaama jane tyang. Jane kaame थिएन. अब यको मान्छेहरु चाहिँ तल लोबेजसम्म बस्छ. त्यहाँबाट त हामी जाने कामै छैन. अनि तेन्जिङहरु त हेरेर आएर बु माथि एभरेस्ट चाहिँ हामीले थाहा पायो. नभए हाम्रो गाउँै भए पनि हामीले के जाने कामै छैन. गाह्रो भयो हजुर. मलाई गाह्रो त के जानु नस्याङ्ने के. अब कहिले पनि जस्तो काम गरेको छैन. त पनि त बारे बजेर त खरबासमा जानु पर्यो. यहाँ हातमा डोर समाउनु पर्यो. यहाँ आइसा समाउनु पर्यो. यहाँ बारे थुप्रो बजेर जानु पर्यो. अनि त साङ्गुमा जानु पर्यो. अनि माथि जुरेर जानु पर्यो. अनि गाह्रो त एकदम गाह्रो छ. तर यस्तो काम पाएर धेरै खुसी भयो नि.
Hillary loved Khumbu and Khumbu loved Hillary. He dedicated his life for the region and its people. In the decades that followed, Everest became a symbol of determination, not just for men, but for everyone who dared to dream. In 1993, Pasang Lamu Sherpa became the first Nepali woman to stand on the summit. Her journey was marked by courage and struggle.
पैसा हुनु पर्यो. यसमा आफूले लगानी गरेर खर्च गर्नु पर्यो. रोयल्टी तिर्नु पर्यो. अब आफूले सँगै लानु गुरुबहरुलाई चाहिँ खानाहरु हुनु पर्यो. लुगाहरु एकैमैको पैसाहरु हुनु पर्यो. त्यसकारणले चाहिँ यो पैसाकोले नै पैसाकै समस्याले गर्दाखेरि पनि अगाडि बढ्न नसकेको हो. तर यहाँ एउटा ट्रेनिङको महिलाहरुलाई चाहिँ यो माउन्टेन ह्याली क्षेत्रमा एउटा ट्रेनिङको व्यवस्था बन्दोबस्त पनि त्यति साह्रो राम्रो छैन.
For some, the climb is a personal test. For others, it's a way to uplift an entire nation. Of the many record holders from Nepal, Apa Sherpa, who's also known as the Super Sherpa, had reached the summit 21 times before announcing his retirement.
म यो रेकर्डको लागि चाहिँ भए त
म आज पनि चढ्न सकेको छु नि तर म रेकर्डको लागि होइन मैले हाम्रो देशको लागि हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि माथि पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नो पेसा भनौँ न अब पुरा नै हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि भनौँ पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नै पेसाको हो तर त्यो लास्टमा म चढिरह्यो भने त्यो त तपाईँको उस जस्तो देखिन्छ कि कम्पिटिसन जस्तो देखिन्छ कि मलाई त्यो मेरो चाहिँ नि त्यो कम्पिटिसन होइन र म राष्ट्रको लागि हो त्यसैले मैले अब 2011 देखि मैले सन्यास लिएर अपसेवा फाउन्डेसन खोलेर शिक्षा सबभन्दा इम्पोर्टेन्ट चाहिँ के छ हाम्रो शिक्षा एजुकेसन छैन भने हामीलाई धेरै गाह्रो छ मैले खैराहरूले पनि भन्दैछु विदाउट एजुकेसन वी हेभ नो चोइस एजुकेसन इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ त्यसपछि हाम्रो वातावरण त्यसैले हाम्रो नेपालको लागि म त्यो दुईवटालाई जोडेर मैले सपोर्ट गरिरहेको छु
Over time, the story of Everest has changed. Each climbing season now brings not only adventurers, but also income and impact. In 2024, Everest generated nearly 676 million Nepali rupees, almost 80% of Nepal's total mountaineering revenue. The fee for foreign climbers has been revised now to $15,000 each. So far, more than 8,000 summiteers of different nationalities have climbed Mount Everest. Many more aspire to reach the top of the world. To ease the pressure on Everest and promote other regions, the government of Nepal has opened 97 peaks that range from 5,970 meters to 7,123. One can climb these mountains in the western Karnali and Sudur Paschim provinces without having to pay royalties. As voices increase for the need of having summited at least one mountain over 7,000 meters in the country before bidding for the Everest, these 97 peaks are likely to be training ground for summiteers. With success, Everest has also seen a heavy burden. In 2023 alone, more than 75 tons of waste were collected from the Everest region. This included plastic, metal, oxygen bottles, and even human waste. The mountain has also been plagued by fatal climbing attempts.
यसपालिको भन्दाखेरि त अब लास्ट इयरको पनि मरेको लासहरू अझै पनि छन् माथि बाटोमै पनि त्यो लासहरू देखे हामीले यो 8,300-400 मिटरमा बालकुनीमा त्यो लासहरू पनि अझै भइरहेको छ र फोहोरहरू पनि सर्चकल पनि टन्नै फोहोरहरू छ पहिला हामीले अब शहरमा त आरोग्य सङ्घले पनि 2011 मा सफा त गर्यो त्यत्रो फोहोर ल्याए 10 टन फोहोर पनि धेरै नै ल्याएको त्यतिखेर त्यति ल्याउँदा पनि अझै फोहोरहरू चाहिँ एकदमै छ भनौँ न टाइममा अब राज्यले चाहिँ किन त्यसलाई चाहिँ अलिकति व्यवस्था के अब कुन हिसाबले हुन्छ त्यो फोहोरलाई अलिकति तल ल्याएर अलिकति सफा गर्यो भने एभरेस्टको लागि अलिकति विदेशीहरुको लागि अलि राम्रो होला कि भन्ने चाहिँ हामीलाई लागेको छ.
Sagarmatha has taught the world to dream higher, but now she asks us to care deeper. The greatest climb perhaps isn't upward, but inward. "70 years since the first ascent, much has changed, but one thing has and will remain constant. Everest has and will continue to stand tall and keep challenging human abilities."
This is Geopod on NTV World. I'm Shivani Thapa Bosnath, and in this episode, we ask questions on democracy. Around the world, democracy is busy but uneasy. Elections are frequent, participation remains high, yet direction, stability, and trust are increasingly elusive. This is not a crisis of turnout, it is believed to be a crisis of consequence. And Nepal sits squarely inside this moment. A decade after a new constitution promised stability and inclusion, the country faces fragile coalitions, judicial interventions, and a public, especially its youth, growing impatient with politics itself. Elections are approaching at the moment, but confidence in what they will resolve is thin. Here at Geopod, we step back from personalities, from daily headlines, to ask a harder, more uncomfortable question. Is Nepal's instability a failure of leadership or a flaw in democratic design? And joining us in this crucial conversation is political analyst, author, Dr. Chandradev Bhatta. Welcome, Dr. Bhatta, to Geopod.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your important show.
And the pleasure is all ours. And before we move ahead and start judging the outcomes, Dr. Bhatta, let's define the system itself in our conversation. When you look at Nepal today, right, what, not in theory, but in practice, what kind of democracy has Nepal become? A majoritarian, a consensus-driven, or something more improvised?
Thank you very much. I think this is a very important question for us, primarily because Nepal has been practicing democracy for a long period of time. If you look at, we have a history of more than 70 years of practicing democracy. But during these 70 years, we have also seen many ups and downs. We have seen series of movements. Nepal has seen series, came up with different types of constitutions as well. But still, we talk about democracy, whether democracy is stable or are there any problems. I see if you look at from the perspective of a constitution today, Nepal is a constitutional democracy. Nepal is there are a lot of issues that Nepal needs to look into, but if you look at the actual state of democracy in Nepal, we are somehow practicing the consensus model of democracy. We also have to look into the constitution itself, because the current constitutions basically asks Nepal to move into the consensual model of democracy, primarily because it also, it's a diverse country. There are different types of people, different types of ethnicity. People have different types of opinions as well, language. We are a diverse state, and perhaps this could be the reason that our constitution puts a lot of emphasis on adopting the model which tries to bring all people together. At the same time, we also have got the proportional representation model. The very idea of these two models is to get all the people on board, so that democracy is not only owned by the certain political leaders or certain political parties, but it is owned by the people at large. That's the basic premises of the constitution. But in practice, I don't think we are really moving into the right direction. This is very, I think we have to accept this reality. We did not really practice the democracy as it has been envisioned in the constitution. Somehow, I would say, to answer your question whether Nepal is a consensual model of democracy or a majoritarian, I would say it's an electoral democracy, primarily because the democracy itself has been, I think it would be too harsh to say, people may not agree with this, but of late it has been hijacked by the professional political class, through elections. And this is not only happening in Nepal, but it's happening all over the world. That's why we see a lot of disenchantment towards democracy everywhere in the world. It has nothing to do with the system per se, but it's the way it has been practiced.
So you would say this is largely an outcome of political behavior rather than by design in the Constitution?
It's not really, it's basically a political culture that has been developed over the period of time, not only in Nepal, but we see in other parts of the world as well. This perhaps is the reason why a lot of people, a lot of the universities in the West are discussing can we have an alternative model of elections as well, because largely the elections are used to hijack the democracy as well. And if the democracy only becomes the electoral and it does not really look into the substantial part of it, then you don't really people really don't like it. The dividend of democracy then will not be enjoyed by the all. The very idea of democracy is to it has to protect those who cannot protect themselves, and
we certainly will get there,
falling
Dr.
into
Bhatta,
that direction.
We'll certainly get there, because this discourse is certainly leading into the alternative spheres as to where the outlet of this desire would be. But let's focus on the instability that Nepal has come past since a prolonged period of transition, right? So is instability in Nepal, how do you as an analyst say, is it a malfunction or is it the system operating exactly as it is built?
It's somehow, I would say, earlier you said the political behavior. I would say it's basically the political culture that we have developed. If you look into the constitutional framework, it has a lot of mechanism that can look into the instability part as well. But somehow, when the very objective of politics is defined by the political leaders from their own perspectives, then it does not really provide the type of stability that we all wanted. So I think I would say it's inherently designed over the period of time. It has become a feature of Nepali democracy or politics over the last couple of decades, I would say. We've been, if we just start from 1990 onwards, it's been more than 35 years we have been practicing democracy. But if we look into the history of during these periods as well, we have seen many governments, and we have witnessed different types of instabilities, not only the governmental instabilities, but also instability, constitutional instability, legislative instability, executive instabilities. These all types of instabilities are there. So they can be managed, they can only be managed through the democratic political culture, democratic political behavior, which somehow is missing in our political class. The political class somehow is not really exercising that part. Also, the constitutional provisions are there. Through constitution as well, we can also manage the instabilities, but the fact of the matter is that somehow often the those class, political leaders, they try to define the laws also from their own perspectives. That somehow puts us in a very difficult situation. So I don't blame the system per se. It's basically the political behavior, political culture that we have developed over the period of time, which has been creating a lot of problems. The frustrations towards democracy. People think that it's not really delivering. So delivery can only come when we are really committed towards it. So that level of commitment is not really there. Let's move to
delivery, Dr. Bhatta. Let's move to the center or the core or the soul of democracy, elections, right? You've already mentioned there has a time has come where people are looking for alternative electoral practices. Even the political class have been emphasizing on the need for a reform, right? So in this scenario, as we look back and look at the many number of elections that we've had in a very short period, How do you, as an observer or an analyst, see, do elections in Nepal, did they fail to generate political clarity? Or what was the problem?
I don't say like that. I would say like this. I think elections are quite important for democracy. They certainly produce legitimacy because without a legal legitimacy, you cannot really govern. In order to be in that place, helm of the governance, one has to have certain legitimacy. So elections are Nepal certainly providing a legal, rational legitimacy, but they have failed to produce, I would say, the political legitimacy, primarily because elections are producing the government, but these government are not really being able to make the policies. The clarity, political clarity comes through the policies. So if you don't have a policy that aligns with the democratic values and principles, that creates a problem. So they do provide a clarity, legitimacy, but somehow these clarities are not really put into practice. So there is a clarity because political parties go to election, they have a manifesto, they have a programs, they have everything. They talk everything under the sun. So everything is in their manifestos. But the problem arises once you are elected, you become a minister or you become a member of parliament or you occupy that space, the political space or the position. Then you don't really, the political class, which is not, it's not happening here only, it's happening in other parts of the world as well. The accountability is the most important part. Government has to look into.
Right. So the issue is in delivery and being accountable. Right?
Accountability.
Yeah. No matter what the system provides,
yes.
If you fail to deliver, if you fail to be accountable, then that's where it certainly negotiates itself into paralysis,
exactly.
A sort of paralysis or frustration,
right?
Now this brings us to the engine room of Nepali politics, Dr. Bhatta. If you remember, the last time we met, we were talking about Nepal's coalition culture, and this was before, well before the transition and the movement happened, right?
Yes.
But if you just pan through the world, you would certainly agree coalition has become a new norm globally,
course,
right?
Yes.
Not the exception, of course. Why has coalition government in Nepal produced immobilization rather than compromise?
I think this is one of the most important questions, and I would say this is the question of our time, and we should try to answer this question. Because as you said, coalition has become a norms now, not only in Nepal but in many other countries, even the Western developed democracies. If you look at the Western Europe, they have been practicing coalition culture for a long period of time, right after the Second World War until today. Germany is governing through the coalition parties only. Coalition government has been there, and in Netherlands, after the election, they only expect coalition government. They don't have any other alternatives. So it's happening everywhere. In South Africa, 1994. So majority of the countries today are practicing coalition culture. And I don't think there are very slim chances that a single party will come into the politics and will with the absolute majority, because in today's world the issues are different. We don't have a common. People have got their own interests, own issues, and the ideological political parties are becoming weaker, because in the past there used to be ideological political parties, and under the ideology they used to garner the majority, but we don't have that situation today. It's a fragmented issues, fragmented situation. So I think then, but still there are some countries which have successfully governed through coalition culture, and some countries who have really done miserably failed. I would say we have been practicing coalition government, at least I would say from 2005, 6, and even before that. But somehow our coalition culture is not really based on certain principles, because we need to have principles for that. We need to have a coalition framework. Why do we want to come together? And that has not really been worked out in the past and clarified. Coalitions are largely built around the power sharing agreements only, and we don't see much of a discussion related to policies. So So if the coalition governments are only formed on the basis of power sharing agreement, they don't really succeed. If they are also backed up by the policies and programs, and if they really wanted to take people's concern into consideration, they will definitely succeed. Another important part is our society, as I said earlier, although the ideology is dying out, but still, the political leaders, political parties, they come up with different types of ideology. So I think we should also try to minimize the differences and look for the common position where we can work together. So if we work in that direction, I don't see any problem with the coalition. But again, at the end of the time, the most important part in politics is why do we want to do politics is the most important part. Whether you wanted to do something for the people or you wanted to do something for yourself or only for your parties. If we really don't answer that question, I don't think we will go anywhere. If you ask anybody today, the youths or people of any ages, ask them a question, why do you want to come into the politics? I don't think they will have answers that satisfies us, because everybody would say, I want to serve this country. But there are people who have been serving in this country for a long period of time, but still people are not really happy about it with their service. So I think the part of the problem is the framework. We don't have the framework. Clear framework is not there. Also, the very intention of the coalitions. Why do you want to do that? Whether it is for just to stay in the power, or to do something for the country, or to do some, to improve the life of the people. That's the objective of the politics.
These stakeholders need to ponder on. We will certainly come to that later, Dr. Bhatta. Let's keep our focus on the discontent of the people, right? Which is quite visible. Yes. We saw that. Yeah. We come past to one very important transition. And this time, this discontent has percolated down to the younger generation. Generation which should have been engaged in their skill development, capacity development, they are now taking to the street. But the issue of concern, I believe you would agree with me, is the discontent remains or is visibly very fragmented even in that mass, right? So what does this fragmentation tell us? That's very true. The people are discontent, and there are reasons for that. And everybody has got their own reasons for being a discontent. I just wanted to give you an example. The first line of Leo Tolstoy's novel, Anna Karenina, they write, every happy family is happy. There is only one reason for that, because they are just happy. And every unhappy family is unhappy because there are more than one reason for that. So if you look at if we just try to, contextualize that line in the Nepali political context, so if we see certain people are happy because democracy is there for them and it's really working. In fact, it's a thriving. And there are people who are unhappy and they have more than one reason. There are youths of different types. There are youths coming from the urban centers. There are youths coming from the rural areas. The youths coming from the urban center have different challenges, and youths coming from the rural areas have different challenges. There are highly educated people. There are less educated people. So different types of peoples are there in the protests as well. And these protests have happened without a leader, because they were not led by anyone. So they were, I would say, some sort of, these people came out in the street to just vent out their frustrations. So they all have got their own issues which they wanted to express through the street protest. This has not been, there has not been a unified movement for the reason that these issues are also scattered, fragmented. There perhaps could have been a unified, what we call a social movement
or a movement, if they were guided by the certain agendas, or they have common issues, we don't really see that common issues. But still, despite all these fragmentations, we can see one common factors. Whether you come from outside of Kathmandu, or you come from a city, or you are educated, uneducated, whether you want to go outside for a work, you are going to be aspirant migrant workers, whatever background you have got, or whatever futures you wanted to pursue. The one common thing is that the governance is a problem. The governance is not really happening the way it should work in this country. That's the common voice we can see in each and every protest. And then the second point that we can see, or we can observe, is the which is also somehow linked with the governance itself, the issue of service delivery. And third one is everybody is talking about, people wanted to go out, we cannot stop them, because it's a free world, and individuals have the choice whether they wanted to stay in this country, work here, or whether they wanted to go outside. But the very objective of the state is to provide bare minimum opportunities within the countries. I think we have terribly failed there. That's why these movements are happening from their own ways. They have their own understandings. Apart from that, Nepali society also has been divided along those in a different line. But one of the most important line is there are people. I do not really wanted to be too critical about the political parties or the political practices, but that's the reality here. I just wanted to explain. There are people who are aligned with the political parties. There are people who already have got something to their disposals. But there are youths, who don't see the future of their own in this country. But they need to be protected. So their voice, the voices might be fragmented. They might have different issues. But it's the duty of the state or the people who are in the politics or who are going to be at the helm of power. They need to look into their issues. Otherwise, this will create problems. Today we are in a situation of poly-crisis. If the poly-crisis prolongs, we will enter into a next phase, which is called perma-crisis, permanent crisis. So it's quite an important. If the situation moves into that direction, paralysis, the poly-crisis becomes perma-crisis. That will really be bad, not only for the democracy, but for a whole society, because people will lose hope. Confidence is the most important part. Trust.
Let me interrupt you right there, Dr. Bhatta, because this is what Nepal is headed for. I think this is majority of public aspiration, that this prime or fundamental concern would be addressed by the political players itself. Yes. And again, let me get back to you to the discontent, right? We see there is discontent. It's fragmented, of course, for the very reasons that you've shared. But this is not just about discontent and not only about anger. It's also about the absence of political alternatives, right? Yes. This has been long sought, but from here, how do you foresee the future? This is,
I think you've linked it very nicely, because we're talking now, we're entering into the next phase of our discussions, because this discontent has happened primarily because the government of the day has failed to deliver, or they're not happy with the way politics has been functioning, or the system per se is working. Right? And people, it's not only in Nepal, the discussion on the alternative politics is happening in almost everywhere, and people are looking for a change. That's the human nature. And the idea of alternative politics has also been floated in Nepal. It's been almost 5-6 years. People are talking about the alternative politics, but the way alternative politics is coming is not really, I don't want to blame them because they're not really into the government yet, but just looking by their, the agendas, the way they are coming up is also not really encouraging. I would say the alternative politics in Nepal is still the leftover or the residue of the past politics, I would say, because you see the same people there as well. You don't see much agendas. They also don't have agendas. The clarity, the political clarity is also missing there. The alternative politics is basically building around the unsuccess or the failure of the older political class, and it's operating on the binaries. Basically, we are good people and they are bad people. Mm-hmm. So it's some sort of binaries which is creating, which is developing some sort of what we call populism as well. I would say the alternative politics is also harping on these issues. If they really come up with certain agendas, let's suppose, how do they want to change the politics? We don't really talk about economics, which is the most important part in politics. How do they want to change economic future of the country? The bulging youth population that come into this country, like around 7 lakhs plus people, youths every year. How much job are we going to create for them is quite important. I think that should be the discussion, rather than blaming each other. That blaming game is going on for a long period of time. Old class is blaming the new class for creating instability, for destroying the system, whereas the new class is saying that these people have destroyed us, they have finished everything. So I don't think this is not really going to lead us anywhere. The discussion would be centered around what are the issues that we should work together, and what are the factors that is leading discontent and state protest repeatedly in this country. Why there has been a conflict or the movement in every 10 years? I think we should try to answer this question. Every 10 years from 1950 onwards, we see one type or the other type of change happening here. But we've never tried to answer that question, because there are certain reasons behind that, why that happens. Because every 10 to 15 years, we have a new generations coming in politics, right? And we have the political practices, political behavior are the same, and we're not really creating opportunities for these people. And we also don't try to understand their sentiment, feeling. Definitely they will come up with their own imagination, they will have their own worldviews. So if we don't try to look into their concerns, they will have to rebel. There is no alternative.
The point you want to make is any political force, the traditional or the newer ones, whoever has the central agenda as economy would be or is the alternative force that the Nepali people is seeking at the moment.
I think that should be the priority for all the political parties, because we have a constitution. We are a democratic state. Even the modern democracy was not there. The countries like us have been practicing democracy for ages, right? We don't have to say that we just have practiced democracy. It's been it's a very short history. I don't buy that argument, because the very the very spirit of this society is democratic society. It's only that we need to, but the situation has changed over the period of time. Political economy is changing. We really need to adjust the society, the aspirations of the people with the changes that are happening within the country and that are happening outside the country as well, because we cannot remain aloof from the outside world. So that should be the, I think, priority. And the stability, we've been talking about stability for a long period of time. Stability alone provides, it does not guarantee, there will be a prosperity. To be a prosperous country, to have a citizen who can have some hope in the country, I think we need to work in that direction, and economy is the most important part. But sadly enough, I would say, we've not really been able to do the three things. First, the political management. It's been going on for a long period of time. There are countries which have come into the world limelight, I would say. They are younger countries, I would rather say. they've not really, they have moved ahead. We've not really been able to manage the politics. The second one issue is the survival function of the state, I would say. Survival means survival of its people and survival of the sustainability of the system and the state. I think we also need to work in that direction.
Right. So at this point of time, when Nepal is looking forward with a lot of hope, and maybe a little grim on side, some are calling this situation, the situation we are living at the moment, as chaos. Some say it's a new dawn, right? From an expert's lens, what would you call this situation? Is Nepal experiencing democratic fatigue or democratic maturity?
I think it's everything. Again, everything would depend. I think that you get the two interesting words in your question: the chaos and dawn. It depends how you look into the things. It's entirely depends on the way people try to interpret it. But I would say we have to be pessimistic about the future. If we don't have pessimism, I don't think we have to be optimistic. Sorry, not pessimistic. We have to be optimistic about the future of the politics. The change, the chaos can be managed, and we can come out of this crisis, provided that the political class, whether they come from a new parties or new groups or the old ones, they should come together. And they can, if they work together for the country, for the people, I think there is a lot of hope. There is a lot of optimism, not always a pessimism. And change, change is the nature of the society, and change is that's the only thing which is permanent. Change is the only permanent. So I don't see much of a problem, provided that political parties and all they work together and they work for this country, and they manage the, we're not fighting with outsiders. The struggle is within the country and within our own people, the political parties, whichever background you come from. So that part has to be managed. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Right. So wherever we are, at whatever point, optimism is very, very pivotal. That's right? Most important. And again, this brings us to a very, very pivotal concern, because legitimacy doesn't, disappear very quietly. Yes. Now, let's talk about the viewers outside Nepal, Dr. Bhatta. Why should they care about this political adrift here in Nepal?
I think it's quite important for Nepal as well as for them to look into what is happening here in this country. At least I would say for three reasons. First is Nepal's geographic locations, which is quite important, and the way geopolitics is developing, not only in this part of the world, but in other regions as well. The second is the regional stability, I would say. That is also quite important. If anything happens bad in this country, if Nepal becomes too unstable and goes for a long period of time, that will create instability in the region as well. Third, there is something called, the global goods, I would say. Democracy is a global good. It's something that, universal values. And Nepal is just coming out of, it's a post-conflict society. We went through 10 years of insurgency, and during this period of time and during the constitution writing process or the peace process, international community has provided a lot of support to Nepal as well. So if Nepal moves back, if Nepal slides back, or if it reverts to the conflict or problems, political instability, it will not be good for the international society as well. And it has to be, if the instability keeps on, it becomes the normal practice in this country, instability. I think that will also create a problem for a broader, in a broader geopolitical context. So it's quite an important. Also, in today's globalized world, Nepal's political problem is not only Nepal's problem. That becomes a global problem as well. Everybody is quite concerned about it. Just the classic example I just wanted to give you is what happened in recent, in West Asian countries, which conflict has been there for a long period of time, or what has happened in Venezuela or any other parts of the country. We also become concerned about it. So concern is some sort. It's not always a negative thing, I would say. Concerns also is they also wanted some sort of, it creates a solidarity, I would put it like this, some sort of solidarity, because we've been a part of an international community for a long period of time, and we've been supported by the international community during the peace process, as I said earlier. So it is quite important, not only for Nepal but also for the regional stability and for the international community as well. So any problem, it's a trickle-down effect, will affect not only have consequences for the region and for the people inside, but it can also be the problem for outsiders.
How much of this instability diminish Nepal's strategic relevance? Like, does it simply change, does it change how we interact or engage with our neighbors?
I think it's quite an important question, and I think we really need to look into it very, very seriously, because last year or the year before that, the French newspaper Le Monde wrote about Nepal, and the headline was Nepal is a world champion of political instability or something like that. That was what Le Monde reported. If the reporting about Nepal in the international press, or if the international community always sees or knows Nepal from instability perspectives, I don't think that will really be good for us. And in today's world, basically in today's context, I would say, when geopolitics is at its height, at multiple levels, if we become politically unstable, I don't think we will really be able to address the challenges that geopolitics is coming up in the region and beyond that. Also, our interactions at the international level, for a state like Nepal, engagement at the international level is quite important, and that will also be impacted. So I think the prolonged instability will create, will definitely weaken us, will not really help us to negotiate with other powers, other countries as well. So I think that's quite an important part, and we have to we should be able to address these questions. Why instability all the times? And so which is because this is already impacting the internal political dynamics, and it is also going to have an impact for the broader geopolitical landscape as well. So we need to find out where the problems lies.
So what do you think, how is the international community reading Nepal at the moment?
I think the Gen Z movement was a turning point in Nepal. I think in a recent political history, Lenin said there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. And many things happen. If you look at during the 24 hours time, many things happened in this country, and I don't whether people may not agree on it, but the institutions were become basically very weak as well. Since then, the way international community looks into Nepal is not that really encouraging for us. If you look at the problems that happened in the streets and the state takeover, it would be too harsh, but it's a kind of a state takeover from the street, which is not really a positive sign. If it becomes a trend or norms in the future, I think this will be really, really problematic for us, for a democratic stability or any type of stability that we aspired for. Also, what we need, we know we've been talking about politics all the times, and in order to be a stable politics, we need a stable economy as well, and for that we need international support, investment, international investment. And if we become unstable, and if the situation continues like this, the level of support or the investment that Nepal is to receive from outside will definitely decrease as well. It will also have a consequences for the I think during that time, I don't know how the situation is now, but a lot of countries were quite reluctant to provide the travel permissions to Nepal as well. I think it was very concerning. They were became quite concerned. So today, all of, I think, international community put together, they definitely wanted to have a stable Nepal. They must have been reading the development in Nepal very closely. If you look at the recent development, the way Nepal has been put into the categories of those 73 countries, that the 75 countries, right. That's already alarming. That's already indicating something. So it's instability can turn into a conflict, and conflict into a civil war. I'm sorry to say all these things, but it's a very difficult situation. So we have to be quite careful about all these things. We have to understand the nitty-gritty of the situation, I would say, the political things and all these.
Right. These very concerns, and then there are speculations, there are rumors making
rounds. Of course, yes.
There are misinformation, disinformation, right? So amidst all this, let us move towards closing this conversation with you, Dr. Bhatta. Let me end here with, amidst all this, with a very hard question. 10 years from now, will Nepal's democracy look stronger or similar or familiar?
I hope we have a stronger democracy. That's a hope, and we can hope for that. But I can just split into two parts. The next 5 years, I think we're not really going to be stable, as stable as we want. Because of the recent political development as well. If you look at the split of the political parties, and there is some sort of not really a conflict, but disagreement between and among different types of political forces as well. That will take a time to settle down. So I would give next 5 years for that. And if we work carefully, next for another 5 years might provide a political stability, and we have a new generations coming up. They are well read, they are well exposed as well to the international development. They know what's happening in the world. So we basically have to rely on them. The future lies with them. So how do we want to develop them? Depends, will decide the fate of this country as well. The politics is there, but the future generations, the youngsters, those who are coming into politics, in society, in economics, how do we want to shape their future, will shape the future of this country as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Bhatta, for coming over, sharing your insights, and moreover, for helping us read our democratic journey.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you here.
Same here.
Right. This was a conversation about democracy, not as an event, but as a system under stress. Nepal's choices in this moment will echo beyond its borders, as our expert just shared with us. Because democracies everywhere are asking the same question at the moment. Not whether people vote, but whether systems still decide. That's it from Geopod this week. Good night.
Welcome to the Hinterlands. This weekly show whips together stories from the hinterlands of Nepal. Takes you beyond the cities and highways into the heart of Nepal's rural landscapes. It's a country alive with stories, laughter, ideas, and everyday magic. I'm Rosina Rai, and we will be leading you into this journey every week. When we hear about Nepal, images of the majestic Himalayas, rich cultural diversity, and a vibrant festival quickly come to our mind. A land where festivals are not just celebrations, but a way of life. Festivals and Nepal are often considered synonymous, reflecting the country's deep cultural roots and ethnic harmony. And with that spirit, we begin this new episode of the Hinterlands by exploring Magi, one of the most significant festivals of Nepal, predominantly celebrated in the Tarai region. Nepal celebrates Magi Sankranti, also known as Makar Sankranti as per lunar calendar, as one of its most cherished festivals. It marks the sun's northward journey, signaling the end of the winter and the start of longer days and new beginnings. While the essence of the festival remains the same, its celebration varies across communities, each adding its own tradition and flavor. For the Tharu and Magar communities, Magi is celebrated as the New Year, while the Newar community observe the day as Ghya Chaku Salu, when ghee and molasses are consumed to provide warmth and energy during winter. In western districts such as Dang, Kapilvastu, Kailali, and Nawalparasi, Tharu villages are filled with excitement and joy with the celebrations. The villages came alive with harvest feast, ancestral worship, and vibrant traditional dances. The air resonates with the rhythms of Maghota and Sakhiya dances. Homes are filled with the aroma of special ethnic delicacies like dhikri, fish, snail, pork, and wild boar, accompanied by homemade rice or millet wine. During this time, villagers also select annual leaders such as the Badghar, watchman, and Guruba, who guides the community in development, security, and religious affairs. Meanwhile, in the hilly regions of Nepal, including Thankuta, Tanahu, Lomjung, and Magdi, the Magar community celebrates Magi with equal enthusiasm. Dressed in their traditional attire, they perform the ancestral dance, filling with the streets with joy and color. The celebrations often begin with the rally featuring Kaura and Jhaure performances, leading to the main festival venue such as Damoli. Ethnic dishes like bara, roasted soyabeans, gundruk, and taro offer a unique taste of the region. Magi Sankranti is more than just a festival, it is a spiritual and cultural marker of renewal. It symbolizes health, prosperity, and community, serving as a time for charity, religious rituals, and new ventures. Above all, it is a moment when Nepali communities across the country come together to celebrate life, tradition, and the hope for year ahead. That was a glimpse into the vibrant Magi festival celebrated across Nepal. And now we reconnect you with one of Magi's most significant traditions. The election of the Badghar, or village chief, along with other key leaders responsible for guiding and safeguarding the Tharu community. Different from the country's formal political appointments, this practice is deeply rooted in Tharu customs and reflects a legacy passed down through generations. Held after the Grand Magi New Year celebrations, this important activity highlights the community's collective decision-making and cultural continuity. The Magi festival, a grand celebration of the Tharo community as a new year in Nepal, concludes with great fervor. However, Tharo villages across the western Nepal, including Kanchanpur, continue to buzz with important activities. Following the festival, one of the most significant traditions of the year takes place, selecting the village leader known as the Badghar. Alongside the Badghar, other community leaders such as the Chowkidar, watchman, Lekhandas, record keeper and the guru teacher are also selected. Villager gathers in open spaces discussing, debating and reflecting on the past year. The work accomplished, the challenges faced and the lessons learned are all carefully reviewed before any decision is made. Then through majority consensus and open dialogue, a new Badghar is chosen. This system acts as a grassroots democratic customary organization responsible for planning, developing and resolving disputes within Tharo villages and the community entire. The process is also a living example of Tharo democracy, where every voice is heard and every contribution matters. Traditionally led by men, the role of women in leadership is growing nowadays, and young people are increasingly stepping forward, eager to contribute to their communities. From resolving disputes to overseeing development projects and guiding cultural and collective activities, the Badghar's role is central to village life. But this tradition is about more than leadership alone. It is about unity, identity and the continuity of their culture. Through this annual ritual, the Tharo community of Nepal remains connected to its roots, bound together by shared responsibility, shared heritage and shared celebrations. Even today, the selections of the Badghar keeps the spirit of the village alive, ensuring that traditions endure and that the community moves forward together.
Now we turn to a different report from Nepal's far western region, raising serious concerns over earthquake safety and preparedness, as the country observed the 28th National Earthquake Safety Day. While marking the day, experts emphasized the urgent need for earthquake-resistant constructions and the strict enforcement of building and land use regulations. And this leaves a pressing question. Is Nepal truly prepared for another unexpected tremor, unlike the devastating earthquake of 2015?
Events including morning rallies and awareness programs were part of the 28th National Earthquake Safety Day that was observed Friday across Nepal. Western Nepal, separated by Gorkha, technically is separated from the center and is facing a growing earthquake threat, much due to lack of awareness among the rural folks. Experts warn that this region lies in one of the country's most seismically active zones, where a long period without a major earthquake has allowed dangerous levels of energy to accumulate beneath the ground. Geological studies indicate that more than 5 centuries since 1562 Bikram Sambat, no major earthquake has struck the mountainous belt stretching from Gorkha to Nepal's western border and beyond into India. In contrast, central Nepal experienced the devastating 7.6 magnitude Gorkha earthquake in 2015. Seismologists say that the absence of a similar event in western Nepal makes the region particularly vulnerable to a powerful future earthquake.
सुदूरपश्चिममा भूकम्पको जोखिम बढी छ, आउने जोखिम बढी छ। शहरी लगायत पहाडी भूभागमा बनेका परम्परागत घरहरू भूकम्पको कति जोखिममा छन्, कति क्षति हुने हो भन्ने त्यो आकलनहरू पनि
Between 2022 and 2026, more than 100 tremors were recorded across the far western province of the country, sharply increasing in 2023 to 24. Bajang district experienced the highest number of tremors, followed by Bajura, Acham, Doti, Baitari, Dadildhura and Darchula. The danger is compounded by the fact that most settlements in the far western province consist of old, non-engineered buildings that are highly vulnerable to strong shaking. Experts are calling for earthquake-resistant construction, strict enforcement of building and land use regulations, and enhanced preparedness measures, including search and rescue capacity and community awareness. While provincial authorities defend that steps toward preparedness have already begun, begun, but experts stress that coordinated action by federal, provincial and local governments is essential. In a country as seismically fragile as Nepal, preparedness and resilience remain the strongest tool to protect lives and communities from future earthquake. We have discussed Nepal's Magi festival, the tradition of electing the Budkar, and concerns over earthquake safety. Now, shifting focus in the hinterlands, we turn to a critical governance issue, the budget performance of Nepal's Sudur Paschim province. Despite more than half of the fiscal year having passed, the Sudur Paschim provincial government has spent only around 10% of its total budget, raising serious questions about financial management, development, delays, and administrative efficiency. In this report, we take a closer look at the reasons behind the poor budget execution and the sectors most affected. 6 months into Nepal's current fiscal year, the Sudur Paschim government is struggling to turn its budget plans into action. Despite ambitious promises and a larger budget than last year, spending on the ground remains strikingly low. By mid-year, the province has managed to spend only about 10% of its total budget, a figure that raises serious questions about the effectiveness of provincial governance under Nepal's federal system. Only 3.66 billion Nepali rupees has been spent so far. Budget that was meant for roads, irrigation, canals, schools and health facilities projects that directly affect people's daily lives has not been touched. With capital spending at just 5.8%, development work across the province has slowed and delayed, leaving many projects stalled before they even begin. This year, the Sudur Paschim government announced a budget of over 33.46 billion Nepali rupees, equivalent to 230,915,000 US$, focused on key sectors such as infrastructures, education, health, and agriculture. But the numbers tells a different story. Compared to last year, the decline is stark. At this point in the previous fiscal year, nearly 22% of the budget had already been spent. The most worrying sign lies in capital expenditure, while this year the province has barely retouched half that level. Most of this went toward routine administrative expenses, while then a fraction reached development projects. Even ministries with the largest budgets, physical infrastructure, social development, and agriculture have fallen short of their spending targets. Officials say recent disruption, including the Gen Z movement, slowed administrative process and delayed project implementation.
जुन क्षति भएको थियो संरचनाहरू ती कुराहरू मिलाउने कामहरू भइरहेका छ मन्त्रालयको समन्वयमा उहाँहरूले गरिराख्नु भएको छ। दोस्रो भनेको अब बाँकी रहेको अवधिमा खर्च कसरी बढाउन सकिन्छ, कार्यान्वयन प्रक्रियालाई कसरी अगाडि बढाउन सकिन्छ भन्ने कुरामा कार्ययोजनाहरू माग गर्ने काम भएको छ।
As the time runs out, the risk grows that development spending will be rushed toward the end of the fiscal year, a familiar pattern undermining both the quality of development and public trust in federal governance every year. The slow pace of budget execution highlights a persistent gap between planning and implementation in Nepal's provincial governments. This brings us to the final report of this episode of The Hinterlands, where we compile visuals from districts across the country to capture Nepal's intensifying election fervor ahead of the upcoming House of Representatives elections scheduled for March 5th. As candidate registration open across all 165 constituencies, Nepal has stepped into the election season with a mix of anticipation, speculation, and skepticism. These high-stakes contests are shaping up to be among the most competitive in recent memory, drawing attentions not only nationwide but also from the international community. Candidacy registration under the first-past-the-post system for Nepal's upcoming House of Representatives elections completed peacefully today. The filings mark the formal beginning of what is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated electoral contests in recent history of the country. Among the heavyweights still contesting the elections are CPN-UML Chair KP Sharma Oli from Chapa 5, former Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal from Rukum East 1, 1, former Prime Minister Madhav Kumar Nepal from Rautarhat 1, Nepali Congress leader Gagan Thapa from Sarlahi 4, and Rashtriya Swatantra Party chair Rabi Lamizhane from Chitwan 2. The contest in eastern Nepal's Jhapa 5 has become the talk of the nation. The former Prime Minister and CPN UML chair KP Sharma Oli faces a direct challenge from former Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Saha. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP has positioned Saha as a potential future Prime Minister, turning the constituency into a high-stakes battleground against one of Nepal's most seasoned political leaders. Pushpakamal Dahal, coordinator of the Nepali Communist Party CPN and a 3-time Prime Minister, filed his nomination from Rukum East Constituency number 1. Known for contesting from multiple constituencies over the years, Dahal previously ran from Gorkha 2 in 2022, Chitwan 3 in 2017, Siraha 5 in 2013, and both Rolpa 2 and Kathmandu 10 in 2008. Meanwhile, Dr. Baburam Bhattarai of the Progressive Democratic Party submitted his nomination from Gorkha 2, the same constituency he won in the past. Bhattarai's last-minute entry sets the stage for a closely watched race, with voters weighing competing visions for governance, development, and regional leadership. Former Prime Minister Madhav Kumar Nepal filed his candidacy from Rautarhat 1, continuing his representation of the constituency. RPP chair Rajendra Lingdel also entered the race from Jhapa 3, a seat he had previously held in parliament, while Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP chair Rabi Lamizhane decided to be in the race from Chitwan 2. Political competition has also intensified in Jhapa 2, where former Speaker Devraj Ghimire and Deputy Speaker Indira Rana Magar have filed their nominations. In Kathmandu 3, Kulman Ghising, chair of the Ujalo Nepal Party and former Minister for Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation, registered his candidacy. The Constituency 3 in Kathmandu is expected to see heated contest on March 5th election, with the former Kathmandu Metropolitan Police Chief Rajunath Pandey running under the Rashtriya Swatantra Party banner. Meanwhile, the newly elected president of the Nepali Congress, Gagan Thapa, has officially filed his candidacy from Sarlahi 4. With nominations complete and political heavyweights in the field, Nepal now heads towards a fiercely contested election that could redefine the country's political landscape.
Beyond the cities and the headlines, real life continued to unfold. Stories shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by hope. This is the Hinterlands, and we will be back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. This is Rosina Rai here again. Goodbye for now.
The European Union and India have announced a landmark trade deal after nearly 2 decades of on-and-off talks, as both sides aim to deepen ties amid tensions with the United States. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa are in Delhi, where they met Modi at a bilateral summit. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the deal historic. It will allow free trade of goods between the bloc of 27 European countries and the world's most populous country, which together make up nearly 25% of global gross domestic product and a market of 2 billion people. The European Commission said the agreement would eliminate tariffs on chemicals, machinery and electrical equipment as well as aircraft and spacecraft following phased reductions. India's deal with the EU is said to lower cost for European products entering the country such as cars, machinery and agricultural food items after import duties are reduced. Delhi said almost all of its exports would get preferential access into the EU, with textiles, leather, marine products, handicrafts, gems and jewellery said to see a reduction or elimination of tariffs. Delhi and Brussels have also agreed on a mobility framework that eases restrictions for professionals to travel between India and EU in the short term. The trade deal comes as both India and the EU contend with economic and geopolitical pressures from the US. Delhi is grappling with 50% tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump last year amid talks aimed at securing a deal between India and the US that are still dragging on. Last week, Trump threatened to escalate his trade war with European allies for opposing a US takeover of Greenland before backing off. At least 16 political activists have been killed since the announcement of Bangladesh's upcoming elections, raising concerns that the country may be returning to a climate of political violence. Observers say the killings linked to a rival party clashes and local disputes have heightened tensions across the country and overshadowed campaigning. It is warned that the surge in violence could undermine public confidence in the electoral process. Officials have increased security measures in key areas, deploying additional police and paramilitary forces to prevent further incidents. Political parties have condemned the attacks, with some calling for investigations and stricter enforcement of law and order ahead of the polls. Election officials have stressed their commitment to holding peaceful and credible elections, but observers say continued violence could complicate voters' turnout and the administration of polling in volatile districts. It is said the violence reflects deep-rooted political rivalries in local and national election contests in Bangladesh. Judges at the International Criminal Court (ICC) have ruled that the former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte is fit to attend pre-trial proceedings for alleged crimes against humanity. The ICC will also hold a hearing on 23rd of January to decide whether the prosecution's case against Duterte is strong enough to proceed to a trial. Duterte's lawyers earlier argued that the 80-year-old was unfit to participate in the ICC proceedings, citing cognitive impairment. He has been detained at The Hague since March 2025. He is accused of being responsible for dozens of murders under his so-called war on drugs, during which thousands of small-time drug dealers, users, and others were killed without a trial. Duterte was president of the Philippines from 2016 to 2022. He justifies his war on drugs by saying peace and order would pave the way for economic development. Duterte was arrested at Manila Airport in March 2025 as his family's alliance with his successor, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., crumbled. His arrest has divided Filipinos. While his deadly drugs crackdown has drawn sharp criticism from civil society, his populist message resonates with those who feel sidelined by Manila's political elite. The EU hits Elon Musk's axe with an investigation over the generation of sexualized deepfake images, including of minors, by its Grok AI chatbot, the latest step in a backlash against the tool. Spokesperson Thomas Regnier in Brussels said no company will make money by violating their fundamental rights in Europe.
The Commission is opening an investigation into Grok under the Digital Services Act because we believe that X may have breached the DSA. We have seen over the last weeks and months anti-Semitic content. We have seen non-consensual deepfakes of women, and we have seen child sexual abuse material. In Europe, no company will make money by violating our fundamental rights.
Grok is integrated into Musk's social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, which is already under separate EU scrutiny for alleged shortcomings in content moderation. Regulators have previously warned that AI systems embedded in large online platforms must meet the same standards as other digital services operating in the EU. The probe comes as the EU steps up enforcement of its digital rulebook, signaling a tougher stand toward major technical companies and emerging AI developers alike. Officials say the investigation is a part of broader efforts to ensure that rapid advances in artificial intelligence do not come at the expense of user safety and fundamental rights. The outcome of the case could set an important precedent of how generative AI tools are regulated across Europe, particularly as lawmakers move to align the DSA with the bloc's forthcoming AI Act. 3 macos have been released this week into Brazil's Tijuca National Park, marking the species' return to Rio de Janeiro after an absence of more than 200 years, according to Brazilian authorities. The release follows a rehabilitation and rewilding program aimed at restoring ecological functions in the Atlantic forest, one of the most threatened biodiversities in the world. The birds, all females, had been rescued from illegal captivity and underwent months of medical care and behavioral training before being deemed fit for release. Environmental officials say the macos are gradually acclimatized to forest conditions and trained to forage on native fruits and seeds, a key step to ensure survival in the wild. Each bird is being monitored through identification bands and tracking devices to assess movement, adaptation, and long-term viability. The macos once inhabited the forest surrounding present-day Rio but disappeared from the region due to deforestation, hunting, and urban expansion beginning in the colonial period. Conservationists say their return could help restore natural seed dispersal processes, contributing to forest regeneration. The Atlantic forest has lost more than 80% of its original coverage, increasingly central to Brazil's conservation strategy. The Danish military's dog sled team, known as the Sirius Patrol, which monitors Greenland's vast frozen northeast, is extremely effective at its surveillance role. The unit operates across one of the world's most inhospitable and sparsely populated regions, covering roughly 972,000 square kilometers of Arctic wilderness in northeastern Greenland. Using traditional dog sleds, patrol members monitor territorial integrity, environmental conditions, and foreign activity in the strategically sensitive area. Sebastian Rasmussen, a former Sirius Patrol member, defended the unit's effectiveness, saying its endurance and operational model have proven reliable for decades. His comments followed remarks by U.S. President Donald Trump, who recently mocked the patrol's role in safeguarding Greenland, reviving debate over Arctic security and the United States' interest in the region. Greenland, an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, has drawn increasingly geopolitical attention due to its strategic location, rare earth mineral potential, and emerging Arctic shipping routes as ice coverage declines. Patrol members rely heavily on self-sufficiency, navigating extreme temperatures that drop below minus 40 degrees Celsius with no immediate access to backup or infrastructure. The Red Lotus Field in Thailand's Udon Thani province has seen a sharp increase in both domestic and international tourists, a boost local operators attribute to South Korean girl group Blackpink's member Lisa Manoban's role as an ambassador for the Tourism Authority of Thailand's Amazing Thailand campaign. The promotional campaign has significantly raised the site's profile, resulting in what many have dubbed the Lisa effect. Visitor numbers have quadrupled on weekends, with daily boat trips rising to about 400 from around 100 previously. It is noted a particularly strong influx of Japanese tourists, many arriving as early as 4 a.m. to view the sunrise over the lotus fields. Local operators say they expect visitor numbers to remain high throughout the blooming season. Operators say the surge has translated into higher income for boat operators, food vendors, and nearby accommodation providers, providing a boost to the local economy. The Red Lotus Field is currently in peak bloom, with the season expected to continue until mid-March, drawing visitors from across Thailand and overseas. French anglers gathered at the canals in northeastern Paris to mark the end of the pike fishing season, following a call by the Paris Fishing Federation. The gathering came after officials in the city's 19th arrondissement opposed a children's fishing competition scheduled for late 2025, a move that has drawn criticism from fishing groups. Participants say the decision raised concerns about potential restrictions on recreational fishing and organized events in Parisian waterways. The federation said fishing is a regulated and legally permitted activity in the capital, carried out under seasonal rules and licensing requirements. The federation added that the planned youth competition is intended to promote environmental awareness and responsible fishing practices. Carcasses of goats and sheep lie scattered across parched land in Mandera County in northern Kenya, where a prolonged drought has devastated livestock herds and left families facing acute shortages of food and water. The failure of successive rainy seasons has dried up grazing areas and water sources, forcing animals to travel long distances in search of pasture, often with fatal consequences. Many families depend almost entirely on livestock for income, food, and survival. Local authorities say livestock deaths have risen sharply across Mandera and neighboring counties, heightening concerns about food insecurity and malnutrition. The drought has also strained access to clean drinking water, with many communities relying on distant or depleted wells. Kenya's arid and semi-arid regions are especially vulnerable to climate shocks, and experts say increasingly erratic weather patterns linked to climate change have made droughts more frequent and severe. Meteorologists say rainfall in the coming months will be critical for the recovery of grazing lands, though forecasts remain uncertain, leaving families bracing for continued hardship. Camel herders from Mongolia's Bayan Khongur province are participating in the traditional camel festival, drawing attention for their distinctive efforts to preserve and promote their cultural heritage. Beyond competing in camel racing, they also handicraft their own traditional clothing as well as camel decorations. This year's camel festival has grown into a large-scale national event, bringing together camel herders from 10 provinces across the country. Participants compete in a variety of categories, including camel racing, the beautiful couple category, and the mature camel competition. Participants compete in a variety of categories, including camel racing, the beautiful couple category, and the mature camel competition. Camel herders are participating with a total of 9 camels and have achieved notable success in several categories. According to the camel herders, their camels are seasoned participants who have won gold medals as well as multiple other medals at provincial and regional competitions. Particularly noteworthy were the camels' decorations and accessories. These handmade pieces serve not only as decorative elements but also as tangible expressions of traditional Mongolian craftsmanship and nomadic culture. Vietnam recorded the highest growth rate in international tourist arrivals in Southeast Asia in 2025, with visitor numbers rising 20.4% year-on-year, according to the ASEAN Secretariat. The growth outpaced other major regional destinations, including Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore, underscoring Vietnam's rapid recovery and expansion in the post-pandemic tourism landscape. The strong performance also earned Vietnam recognition from UN Tourism, which ranked the country among the fastest-growing tourism markets in the Asia-Pacific region. In absolute terms, Vietnam welcomed an estimated 21.2 million international visitors in 2025, placing it third among ASEAN member states behind Malaysia and Thailand. Tourism experts attribute Vietnam's robust performance to a combination of policy reforms and shifting traveler preferences amid ongoing global economic and geopolitical uncertainty. Government-led visa reforms have also played a significant role in arrivals. The tourism boom has contributed positively to Vietnam's broader economic recovery, supporting employment in hospitality, transport, and related services.
Hello and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I am Sabika Shrestha, your host for the weekly current affairs program. Here we pick the news of the week, unpack its significance, and examine how today's decisions shape tomorrow's direction. This week, our focus is on the upcoming House of Representatives election. As Nepal heads closer to its next House of Representatives election, the political temperature is rising, and the battle for parliament is quietly taking shape. Parties are recalibrating strategies in their manifestos. Candidates are busy canvassing voters and asking questions amid internal rifts and questions over representation and governance. This issue featured in most of our bulletins this week on NTV World. On today's episode, we look beyond the campaign slogans to examine what is really at stake in the upcoming House of Representatives election and why this contest could redefine Nepal's political direction in the years ahead. Nepal's Election Commission shortlisted 13 transportation companies to deliver ballot papers and election materials to high hill and mountainous regions. The two selected firms are Saza Courier and Cargo Trans Air International Logistic Private Limited. Although the Commission invited registrations for helicopter services, no firm applied. Additionally, 11 firms have been listed to provide truck and container services. A total of 3,487 candidates have registered their nomination for the first-past-the-post system for March 5 election on a single day slated for nomination. On the same day, a faction of Nepali Congress that was adamant to recognize the special convention filed a writ petition at the Supreme Court demanding postponement of the nomination. Following closure of the proportional representation, PR system candidature focus now shifts to the first-past-the-post system, where major parties have already worked out their nominees. Despite recent split of Nepali Congress and the writ of the Deuva side at the Supreme Court demanding postponement of FPTP nomination date, the intense homework of the parties is almost over. Nepali Congress President Gagan Thapa, meanwhile, has been learned to be engaging with top brass on candidate selection throughout Sunday. Whether Thapa will be able to hold the fort in FPTP nomination will be decided by the Supreme Court, which has interestingly summoned 3 sides without issuing any order that would have affected the election timeline. CPN-UML Secretariat's marathon meeting Sunday almost finalized the candidates for all 165 constituencies. Not surprising that the number of aspirants in UML is high, and President KP Oli has been given the responsibility to make the final decision on the candidates. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP has also moved forward with the preparations, calling a central committee meeting where for the first time Balendra Saha took part as senior leader. Nepali Communist Party, meanwhile, has finalized the candidates, and coordinator Pushpakamal Dahal is already distributing the tickets one by one. Dahal held consultation with senior leader Madhav Kumar Nepal days ahead, signaling a clear decision to contest without electoral alliances. While the possibility of electoral alliance among major parties for the March 5 election seems slim, the established parties are unsure whether the alternative forces and their newfound alliance will affect their election strategy. As per the timeline of the Election Commission for March 5 election, candidate nomination has been set for a single day on Tuesday, that is 20th of January. Unlike in the past, one candidate can be nominated in only one constituency of out of the 165 this time, making the contest interesting as well decisive. Of the 143 parties registered with the Election Commission, 114 are contesting the polls, with 102 parties competing independently and 12 parties forming 5 alliances under separate election symbols. Irrespective of legacy or change agents, this time the FPTP election is surely to be the contest between the new faces and the old ones. In the election fray time, initially 4 former prime ministers had filed nomination. The withdrawal of Dr. Baburam Bhattarai now makes it 3 former prime ministers on the battlefield. While 3 remain on the battlefield, some heavyweights, including another former Prime Minister Jhalnath Khanal, are missing this time. Bijeta Bhandari followed the political heavyweights during their nomination and canvassing.
As Nepal's election calendar moves into a crucial phase, political heavyweights have reached their constituencies on the eve of the nomination process under the first-past-the-post system. With candidacy registration scheduled for January 20, political activities have intensified across the country as heavyweight leaders make symbolic and strategic appearances on their home ground. In Gorkha, former Prime Minister Dr. Baburam Bhattarai announced his decision to contest from constituency number 2 from the Progressive Democratic Party. Meanwhile, senior leaders of the Rashtriya Swatantra Party are in Janakpur Dham. Speculations are rife on the possible constituency of Balendra Saha, but signs are that the former Kathmandu mayor will contest from Madhya province from the RSP. Party chair Ravi Lamichhane is likely to reach Chitwan for Tuesday's nomination, where former Mayor Renu Dahal has already resigned to contest the election from the Nepali Communist Party. Another constituency under spotlight is in Jhapa 5, where CPN-UML chair KP Sharma Oli arrived this afternoon. At the same time, CPN chairperson Pushpa Kamal Dahal has arrived in Rukum East to file his nomination from yet another constituency. As senior leaders head back to the constituencies, the nomination process under the FPTP system marks the formal beginning of what is expected to be a closely watched and high-stakes election season.
Though women make more than 51% of Nepal's population, their representation in policy level has been negligible. Major parties themselves, despite advocating of having ensured 33% women representation in every state mechanism, their behavior while deciding candidates under the first-past-the-post system tells a different story. The nomination process for the upcoming House of Representatives election has once again highlighted Nepal's persistent gender imbalance in the first-past-the-post FPTP electoral system. 3,486 candidates have filed their nomination in 165 electoral constituencies across the country. Of them, only 396 candidates, just 11.34%, are women, while 3,089 candidates, or 88.63%, are men, according to figures shared by the Election Commission. Deputy spokesperson of the Election Commission, Kul Bahadur Jisi, said the gender gap has widened despite an overall rise in candidacy.
Our actually constitution and our acts and regulations are encouraging women and marginalized people, but in reality, in implementation, that point is actually discouraging. That's why we have to focus women participation and the participation of the marginalized people.
The Constitution of Nepal envisions inclusive political participation, encouraging at least one-third representation of women. However, the current nomination pattern shows that political parties have once again failed to reflect constitutional intent in direct elections, relying instead on the proportional representation system to meet inclusion requirements. While women candidacy faces a serious backlash, there has been a massive surge in youth candidates in the upcoming election. Former Minister and women leader Sita Gurung said the numbers expose the gap between rhetoric and reality.
महिलाहरूलाई आन्दोलनको बेलामा अगाडि बढाउने अनि योगदानको बेलामा चाहिँ तर जब उपलब्धि हासिल हुन्छ त्यसपश्चात चाहिँ महिलाहरू कर्मशः पलायन भइरहेको सहभागिताबाट वञ्चित भइरहेको अवस्था चाहिँ छ। त्यो हिसाबले हेर्दाखेरि महिलाहरू आजसम्म पनि नेता भनेर कुनै दलमा पनि स्थापित हुन सकेको अवस्था छैन र समाजले र हाम्रो यो नेताहरूको मानसिकताले स्वीकार गर्दैन। एउटा चाहिँ सबै दलभित्रको हामीले देखिरहेका छौं।
Echoing similar concerns, RSP leader Tosima Karki says women face layered struggles long before reaching the ballot.
It's very pathetic to see the data, like around only 11% of candidacy, female candidacy for direct election. The females who have been able to give their candidacy for the parliamentary election, I think they've already done 3 steps of revolution. The revolution within the family, and the next revolution is within the party. Because I've seen lots of political parties hardly give women a position in executive roles. They're always like, usually made to give chance in the sub role. And the third tier is the most important, which is in the society. Irrespective of the political party, wherever you find the able female candidate standing for the election, please do vote for them.
As election campaigning gains momentum, analysts fear without enforceable legal provisions on women's participation in FPTP nominations, gender imbalance will continue to decline in Nepal's electoral landscape. As election fervor builds across Nepal ahead of the March 5 general polls, Kathmandu, usually the central of political activity, appears unusually subdued, with the absence of familiar political heavyweights leaving the city's streets noticeably quiet. Combined with a shift toward digital campaigning and growing voter frustration over political instability, the calm reflects a changing style of political engagement in the federal capital. Siksha Sarma with Sabina Prajachepang look into the unusually quiet federal capital.
As Nepal gears up for the general elections scheduled for March 5, the election atmosphere is intensifying nationwide. However, Nepal's federal capital, Kathmandu, appears unusually quiet this time. Usually a hub of political activities during elections, Kathmandu's streets and neighborhoods are noticeably calm. One of the main reasons cited is the decision by several influential leaders to change their constituencies and contest elections from districts outside the capital. Notably, Nepali Congress newly elected President Gagan Thapa, who has repeatedly won elections from Kathmandu in the past, had chosen to contest this time from Sarlahi 4 in Madhya province. Similarly, former Kathmandu Mayor Balindra Shah has decided to run from Chhapa 5, where he is set to face CP and EML chairperson KP Sharma Oli. As a result, Kathmandu voters have been deprived of familiar and popular political figures. This shift may have reduced public enthusiasm compared to previous elections.
अहिले चलपलहरु सबै चकमन्नै सुनसान जस्तो छ पहिला पहिला आउने घर घर दैलो कार्यक्रम गर्ने अहिले त्यो पनि बन्द छ सबै राजनीतिक यहाँ काठमाडौँको माहौल राम्रो छैन बन्दै छैन नभए पसलमा हात जोडेर नमस्कार हजुर भन्दै आउँथे अहिले त छैन कोही आएको छैन
पहिले जस्तो प्रचार टाँस्ने गर्ने अनि यो जुलुस नारा जुलुसहरु गरेर प्रचार प्रसार गर्ने त्यो चाहिँ अहिले देख्न पाइएको छैन
धेरै चालफल छैन यता त छैन
कोही देख्दैन अहिले भोटहरु माग्न हेरेर चालफल पनि त्यति खासै छैन.
The decline of traditional campaigning methods such as rallies, loudspeaker announcements, and street processions has further contributed to the lack of visible election buzz. Instead, most candidates appear to be relying heavily on social media for outreach. Kathmandu's politically aware voters are also said to be frustrated by ongoing inter-party conflicts and frequent changes in government.
The Election Commission has claimed that this time the election will be techno-savvy to counter emerging challenges of digital media. The introduction of eMonitor Plus, an AI-powered monitoring platform that scans social media and internet sources in real time to identify content that violate election code of conduct, is making the election most techno-savvy in history. Here's a report.
Youth engagement is likely to be a defining feature of this year's House of Representatives election in Nepal. Newly released data from the Election Commission shows a significant rise in youths filing candidacy this time.
According to age group, the 25 to 35 group candidates are 16.73%, 36 to 50 age group are 46.43%, 51 to 65 age group are 31.29%, whereas the candidates crossing 65 years of age are 5.77%. That's why very few people are contesting in the election crossing 65 years of age.
Political awareness among youths is also being reflected in voter registration, with more young people registering to vote as they become increasingly engaged in the civic processes. Digital and social media platforms have played a major role in this shift by enabling rapid, low-cost dissemination of election information and increasing political discussion among citizens. When it comes to youth, the use of digital tools also come alongside. Growing reliance on digital platforms also bring risks, including the rapid spread of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech ahead of the polls, which can distort public perception and influence election outcomes. To tackle these risks, the Commission is collaborating with UNDP, Nepal Army, Nepal Police, and cyber units. The Commission has introduced eMonitor Plus, an AI-powered monitoring platform that scans social media and internet sources in real time to identify content that may violate election code of conduct or spread harmful misinformation and disinformation. Cyber police units and district cyber cells will work with the system to take action against flagged content.
We have launching eMonitor Plus with the help of UNDP, and we have established EIDC, I mean Election Information Dissemination and Coordination Center here. Within this center, one unit is Information Integrity Promotion Unit. They are working rigorously to detect those type of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech. When they detect them, those type of information, they will classify what is its implication. If it is harmful to community and it is based on hate speech and misinformation and disinformation, they forward it to regulatory agency for legal treatment.
The deployment of eMonitor Plus follows similar systems used in other countries to monitor digital campaign narratives and ensure compliance with electoral rules. Even youths are expecting that organized attempts to spread misinformation and disinformation targeting candidates and the election will be largely discouraged.
The voters or the general people also should be well caring about what they are actually publishing in their social media. They are sharing whatever they are getting the information or videos in there. So majorly those particular videos make the information very weak, and that will particularly help to manipulate the voters in this election. So the governmental agencies, and basically the election commission should be active enough. An election commission should particularly make a separate mechanism to deal with how the misinformation and disinformation is creating chaos in the election.
Though Nepal still votes on ballot papers, the March 5 election for House of Representatives is certain to be most techno-savvy by far. In a newfound trend, major parties announced their prime ministerial candidates in advance for the March 5 election. As per constitutional provisions, only the leader of the parliamentary party of the political party can stake claim for the top post, not the central committee decided or secretariat endorsed. Devendra Suvedi analyzes whether the post was strategic or just an effort to embrace the wave of change demanded by the new generation.
Nepali Congress Central Committee's second meeting under new President Gagan Kumar Thapa has unanimously decided to hit the election floor with Thapa himself as the poster boy. Congress is the third party to declare the prime ministerial candidate to match the strategies of the rivals. Rashtriya Swatantra Party, RSP, was the first to decide the prime ministerial candidate in former Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Shah, who joined the party much later than the declaration. CPN UML was not far behind, as its secretariat meeting expectedly decided to project Chair KP Sharma Oli as its prime ministerial candidate. This is an entirely new practice in Nepali politics, something not seen in any of the parliamentary elections since 1990. Constitutionally, the decision of a party instrument on who will be the next prime minister does not matter. As per the provision, leader of the parliamentary party that is formed by the elected lawmakers of the lower and the upper houses of the federal parliament is eligible to become the prime ministerial candidate. If that is the legal provision, why are the parties declaring their prime ministerial candidates one by one? Analysts say it is a move to show that the party is coming to the election with fresh air, a new face to lead the country.
There is a desperation for a generational shift that, look, there's a new face, we have a new person on the one hand. On the other, one of the old parties, okay, this is our candidate. So it's going to be, in that sense, a national competition between and among certain faces. It's also going to affect the national mood to some extent.
While CPN UML has not been much vocal on championing former Prime Minister Oli as the candidate, RSP and Nepali Congress are very loud and aggressive, most likely because Gagan Thapa and Balendra Shah are the new faces who, to a larger extent, reflect the sentiments of recent Gen Z movement in the country. Though there is no meaning of a party instrument declaring a candidate ahead of the election, this has been done to woo the voters by showing that the party has embraced change. Political analyst Vishnu Sapkota says, though Nepali Congress and CPN UML might not have any issues in their parliamentary parties, different party and parliamentary party leader in the past have evoked ugly confrontation for prime ministerial birth.
When the party goes to the election with somebody as a prime minister, then there will be a definite moral pressure within the party and from the public if the party does not accept that person or does not propose that person formally to be the prime minister when the opportunity comes. So I think we have to look at it in these two ways.
Though there is no guarantee that the parties who have declared their prime ministers in advance will bag majority or get to lead the coalition, but a question arises. What will happen if the announced candidate does not get the favor of the parliamentary party?
When you win the election and if you don't propose the person, the candidate as prime minister, that will be not only misleading, that will be a betrayal to the public.
In the meantime, Election Commission has completed the printing of 15 million ballot papers for the proportional representation electoral system as of last week. Janak Education Material Center, which is printing the PR ballots, has now almost completed the PR ballot paper while making last-minute preparations for the ballot papers under the first-past-the-post system. With voting set for March 5, the House of Representatives election now stands at a critical juncture. As parties make their final moves and voters prepare to decide the country's next political course, the coming weeks will be decisive. We will continue to follow every key development as Nepal heads towards the polls. That's the perspective for this week. Thank you for watching NTV World.
Actually, when I was 16, back in 2015, I was at a music festival. This music is called bluegrass that I play, and I was at this bluegrass festival, and this person named Tara Linhart. She is amazing. You can talk to her more, but she had a fantastic project called the Mountain Music Project. And I heard this project of Nepali musicians and bluegrass musicians coming together and fusing the music. And I thought it was really, really cool to see this cross-cultural collaboration. But I really just wanted to get back to music. And so I reached out to Tara. I had an opportunity to get some funding. And I emailed her randomly. She was in Bhutan at the time. And I said, hey, I want to set up a music project in Nepal. Can you connect me with some of your buddies? And she got on a WhatsApp call and started giving me the lowdown of how awesome it was. One of the people she introduced me to was actually Prince's father, Sham Nepali. And we met in New Hampshire. And we jammed together and had a great time. And he said, oh, when you get to Nepal, you have to meet my son. He's so great. He'll play music, you'll play music together. I was like, yeah, whatever, okay. Like, every dad is going to say that about their son. Like, is it going to be great? Well, then 3 months later, I showed up in Nepal, and I had only brought a mandolin, and I wanted a guitar to write some songs on. So I called up Shamdai, and I said, hey, can I borrow a guitar? He said, yes, come meet my son. And so I met Prince in Kirtipur, and we started playing that day. And then we sat down and we started playing, and it was just like magic. It was just sort of this instant connection. That was pretty special and crazy to me that we grew up on opposite sides of the world, and there are American musicians who I don't vibe with. We don't have a connection. But me and Prince, it was just an instant connection. And so we started jamming together.
It's a love song that my great-grandfather composed. And we're going to fuse with another bluegrass love song. सानी सानी ए झिल्के नानी कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी सानी सानी ए झिल्के नानी कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी हाय हाय कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी चस्मे दाजु झिल्के मिल्के जुल्फी मात्र कोर्ने चस्मे दाजु झिल्के मिल्के जुल्फी मात्र कोर्ने दारी जुङ्गा दन्त देखाई मेरो मन चोर्ने दारी जुङ्गा दन्त देखाई मेरो मन चोर्ने नजिस्काउन हे परुलाई हाय शिवर काकी छोरीलाई नजिस्काउन हे परुलाई हाय शिवर काकी छोरीलाई सानी सानी ए झिल्के नानी कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी हाय हाय कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी जन्म दिने भगवान त हुर्काइदिने आमा जन्म दिने भगवान त हुर्काइदिने आमा कसले हेर यति राम्रो भइराइदियो जमा कसले हेर यति राम्रो भइराइदियो जमा सानी सानी ए झिल्के नानी कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी सानी सानी ए झिल्के नानी कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी हाय हाय कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी हाय हाय कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी हाय हाय कति राम्रो कपाल कोरेकी
Well, she was living in a lonely cabin with son by another man. 5 years she had waited for him as long as a woman can, as long as a woman can. And I don't know what changed my mind, till then I was a rambling kind of love I can't explain that I had for Nellie Kane. She hired me at work that day to help her till the lands. In the afternoon we planted seeds, in the evening we held hands, in the evening we held hands. And her blue eyes told me everything that a man could want to know. It was then I realized I would never go, I would never go. And I don't know what changed my mind, till then I was a rambling kind of love I can't explain that I had for Nellie Kane. We've grown up tall. I became a father to him, and she became my all. She became my all. And I don't know what changed my mind, till then I was a rambling kind of love I can't explain that I had for Nellie Kane. No, I don't know what changed my mind, till then I was a rambling kind of love I can't explain that I had for Nellie Kane. Well, first of all, I just fell in love with Nepali culture. I love momos, I love dal bhat, I love it all. I love this beautiful country. I think our message to the world, one of them is that we want to show more people the beautifulness of Nepal. I think that from my perspective, I love Nepali folk music, but in this country, sometimes people haven't valued it. They've looked to the West for other influences. And so one of our goals is to bring up Nepali folk and fusing it. We're not just doing pure folk music, but to show that this is a vibrant, evolving history and tradition that is still relevant today. And then I also think to people abroad, and especially to Nepalis, I want to show them that they can take their instruments and their culture and they can bring it to the world, and that it's so amazing. I mean, everyone who I know that maybe they don't know so much about Nepal, maybe the only thing they know is that Mount Everest is there. But then once they try a momo, once they hear some music, then they love it. And so we want to just share this music with more people and share the cross-cultural collaboration. I know I've been saying this for a couple of years now, but because we recorded an EP for one day, and then I've been gone from Nepal for the last year, and the hard drive just sat
and no one did anything with the files yet. So we finally got the files going, and we are finally working on our debut EP that will feature a lot of these songs, including the next one, which is one I wrote a couple of years ago. Cause all day I chug way at work and try to shove down all of the hurt. But sometimes at the end, does it fit on the page? And my eyes just run a glaze.
'Cause when the night birds come, it's when I lose my mind. No, I can't bear this endless ticking of time.
Well, right now we really want to go abroad, and in particular my dream is to bring the band to the US, to these festivals that I grew up going to, because I think it's so cool. I love playing the music that I grew up with, but with tabla on it, and the beat is dropping. It's so awesome. But right now we've been having a little bit of trouble figuring out with the visas, especially right now, so we're working on that. And then also being abroad. It's very difficult when I've moved back to the US recently, and so when we're far away, it's hard we can't make music in the same way, but it also means that the times when we are together, I've been back for a month, are just extra special because we get to make music together.
Music, dance, food, art and devotion are the lifeblood of Newar culture, an ancient civilization rooted in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal. With lively festivals nearly every fortnight, the Newars celebrate life through a rich tapestry of traditions known as Jatra.
Nepal's Election Commission seeks clarification from candidates and parties for election code of conduct violation. Receivers only one response. Election Commission mandates parties and candidates to carry out financial transactions through banking channels, warns of legal action for violators. Concern over election security reverberates in the 0 hour of National Assembly meeting. 2 reports presented. Forest fires increasingly becoming disaster risk in Nepal. Authorities classified 9 districts as high risk ahead of the dry season. India and EU announced landmark trade deal. European Commission President and Indian Prime Minister called the deal historic.
And Nepali national cricket team reaches India for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup. 3 T20 practice matches scheduled in Mumbai. Good evening, I am Irpulagi Singlama. This is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in details. Nepal's Election Commission has sought clarification from 7 individuals and organizations, including political parties, candidates, social groups and a school for alleged violations of the Election Code of Conduct. Key cases include statements from Mahesh Basnet and Januka Pathak from Bhaktapur to the Shram Sanskriti Party for using children and Rashtriya Swatantra Party candidate Balendra Shah for comments on social media. Explanations were also sought from the Nepal Health Volunteers Association and a school teachers transfer issue. So far, the Commission has sought 15 explanations in total, but only one response has been received. The Election Commission has made it mandatory for all political parties and candidates contesting the March 5 House of Representatives election to conduct all financial transactions through the banking system. Warning against cash transactions, the Commission said violations could lead to legal action, including cancellation of candidacy. Acting Chief Election Commissioner Ram Prasad Bhandari at a program stressed the elections are the proper way to steer the country forward, referring to the growing public awareness among Gen Z. The Commission estimates election spending at around $238.7 million, expecting it to boost businesses, industries and the overall economy. Now, 2 key reports were presented in today's National Assembly meeting. The Legislative Management Committee's report on the Film Bill and the Federal Strengthening and National Concern Committee's annual report for fiscal year were tabled in today's meeting. Chairperson Tulsa Kumari Dahal emphasized that the Film Bill will develop the industry, promote tourism, and regulate film screening and promotion. Lawmakers urged the government to ensure the upcoming election is fair, clean and fear-free and encouraged voters to support candidates who act in the nation's interest. They also requested updates on the Commission investigating damages from the Gen Z screenings, raised concerns over increasing wildlife attacks in national parks, and highlighted the rising outbreaks of diseases like measles and rubella in Sarlahi, calling for better health services and preparedness. The National Assembly will next meet on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Now, special coverage on the sensitivities surrounding election security and the requirement of banking transactions for election-related expenses in our issue of the day in a while. Forest and wildfires are an increasing disaster risk in Nepal, spreading rapidly due to both human activities and climate factors. Between February and June 2023-24, the country recorded 965 wildfire incidents, causing nearly 874 million Nepali rupees in damages. Surkhet and Bardia are among the high-risk districts, while Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur are considered low risk. Overall, 9 districts are classified as high risk, 13 moderate and 55 low, helping prioritize prevention and response. To address this, the National Forest Fire Preparedness and Response Action Plan 2026 has been launched, focusing on public awareness, forest management and early warning systems. More on this in our cover story segment later in the bulletin. Now, the European Union and India have announced a landmark trade deal after nearly 2 decades of on-off talks, as both sides aim to deepen ties amid tensions with the US. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, at a media briefing in Delhi, said they have delivered the mother of all deals. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the pact historic. It will allow free trade of goods between the bloc of 27 European states and the world's most populous country, which together make up nearly 25% of global gross domestic product and a market of 2 billion people. The deal will see a number of huge tariff cuts across a range of goods and services and a joint security partnership. Moving on, Nepal preparing to play in the ICC T20 World Cup for the 3rd time. has reached India for its final preparations. The World Cup will be held in India and Sri Lanka from February 7th to March 8th. The Nepalese team, after some practice matches in Sri Lanka, has come to India for the final phase of preparation. After that, Nepal is scheduled to play warm-up matches against the United Arab Emirates and Canada before the group stage of the World Cup. Nepal will then begin its World Cup campaign on February 8th against England. In the World Cup, Nepal is placed in Group C, considered a tough group. It includes West Indies, who are the two-time winners, England, a one-time winner, Scotland and Italy, along with Nepal. The 20 teams participating in the World Cup have been divided into 4 groups. Now, ahead of the March 5 elections, the Election Commission is cracking down on cash spending. All parties and candidates must now route funds through banks. We'll take a look why this matters after a short break. You're watching NTV World News Hour, time for issue of the day. The Election Commission has announced that all political parties and candidates contesting the March 5 House of Representatives election are required to carry out their financial dealings through the banking system. The move comes following concerns on overspending of candidates under the first part the post system, as well as parties contesting under proportional representation. More on this in the report.
The Election Commission has stated that for the House of Representatives election to be held on March 5, political parties and candidates must conduct financial transactions through the banking system. Interacting with umbrella organizations of the private sector today, the Commission said that if parties and candidates conduct transactions outside the banking system, actions could be taken against them, including cancellation of candidacy. The Commission has urged no cash transactions take place during the election period. Referring to the Gen Z movement, Acting Chief Election Commissioner Ramprasad Bhandari emphasized elections are the appropriate means to bring the country back on track.
कम्तीमा नेपालीले अनुशासनभित्र रहेर लय भएको मुलुकमा अनुशासनभित्र रहेर स्वच्छपूर्वक घुम्न र बाँच्न पाउनुपर्छ, व्यापार र व्यवसाय सञ्चालन गर्न पाउनुपर्छ र त्यो प्रयोजनलाई भनेको निर्वाचन र निर्वाचन बाहेक अरू विकल्प छैन भनेर निष्ठापूर्वक हामी पनि लागेका छौँ। यहाँहरूले पनि लाग्दिनुहुन्छ र यो लागेर यसलाई चाहिँ सम्पन्न गर्नुहुन्छ भन्ने सम्पन्न हुन्छ।
Meanwhile, the private sector representatives urged the government to facilitate the implementation of the practice.
बैंक ट्रान्जेक्सन पनि हुनु पर्यो भन्नुभयो। अब किनभने नि अहिले चाहिँ 5 लाख मात्र भन्दा बढीको त खर्च चाहिँ नि बैंक ट्रान्जेक्सन हुनुपर्छ भन्ने अवस्थामा चाहिँ नि राज्य नै गइरहेको अवस्थामा चाहिँ नि मलाई लाग्छ त्यो गरिदिनु भने अझै पारदर्शी हुन्छ जस्तो लाग्छ। कसलाई गयो कहाँ आयो भन्ने कुराहरू त्यसले अझै नि राम्रो चाहिँ नि मुन्सी हुन्छ जस्तो लाग्छ। यसले चाहिँ नि
The Commission informed that about $238.7 million will be spent during the election, and it expects this to stimulate industries, businesses, and the overall economy. The Commission also warned of legal action in accordance with the law in case of violations of Election Code of Conduct.
Meanwhile, the election race in Chiapas Constituency 5 has taken on wider political significance, prompting authorities to step up security measures as the area has been classified as sensitive ahead of the vote. The constituency has drawn a lot of attention, with former Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli pitted against RSP senior leader Balendra Shah. We have a report.
The electoral contest in constituency number 5 of Nepal's Chapa district has moved beyond a race between individual candidates, reflecting a broader contest of political ideologies and influence. As a result, security considerations have gained importance, with the constituency identified by authorities as sensitive ahead of the vote. Addressing these concerns, Chief District Officer Shivaram Gilal said that 24 candidates have filed nominations and that arrangements are in place to conduct the election peacefully.
आसन्न निर्वाचनलाई स्वच्छ निष्पक्ष भयरहित वातावरणमा चाहिँ सम्पन्न गर्नु हामी सबैको दायित्व पनि हो र त्यो आचार संहिता पालना गर्न हाम्रो कर्तव्य पनि भएको हुनाले त्यो अनुसार सबै लाग्नु हुनेछ भन्ने विश्वास पनि मैले लिएको छु.
Similarly, Chapa District Election Officer Tulsi Kumar Nepal said that holding a successful election is a shared responsibility and expressed confidence that voting in the district will remain peaceful.
पक्का पनि अब आचार संहिता उल्लङ्घन भयो भने त निर्वाचन कसुर तथा सजाय ऐनले त दण्ड जरिवाना गर्छ नै, तर त्यस्तो अवस्था हाम्रो जिल्लामा आउँदैन, नआओस् र आउँदैन पनि.
To support a fair and secure electoral process, the government has established a joint election cell to coordinate among multiple agencies. More than 11,000 security personnel, including police, armed police force, and army, will be deployed across the district under a 3-tier security framework. The election is being viewed not only as the casting of ballots, but as a test of political accountability, security preparedness, and community coordination, factors that are expected to shape the overall conduct of the vote in Chapa.
Now, in the context of security concerns surrounding the March 5 polls, today in our Public Pulse segment, we are joined by former Major General Dr. Purna Bahadur Silwal. Welcome, Dr. Silwal.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your show.
So, major stakeholders, including political parties, have been raising security concern in the build-up to the March 5 House of Representatives election. So, Doctor, how genuine are these concerns?
I think some of the concerns are genuine and some of the concerns are not backed by the updated facts. One of the reasons for raising such concern is the looted weapons and ammunition in March, and some of them are yet to be recovered. Other reasons are some of the prisoners were escaped and they have not been arrested as of today. And there's another reason would be that some internal and external actors, other interest groups, and undesirable elements want to postpone or disturb the elections, which is going to be held in March 5 because of various reasons. And the fourth would be that the potential clash between the contending political parties. I think besides these concerns, as I have gathered, about 90% of the looted weapons and ammunition have been recovered, and escaped prisoners are not going to be a serious threat as they would be captured as soon as they start creating a threat in the upcoming elections. So I think those concerns are not backed by the updated facts. I think election is going to be held very smoothly in March.
Right. So just because the election is being held in a single phase makes it more challenging for security organizations, or are there other reasons to make the election more sensitive?
I think in last 2 decades, we have conducted 2 constituent assembly elections, 2 parliamentary elections, and 2 local elections, and all of them were held in a single phase. And security agencies were capable of conducting or providing safety and security to the election. I think this time also, security agencies are all geared up in terms of planning and coordinating to conduct the election in a single phase across the country. They are working very hard to put their efforts together and to collaborate based on the lesson learned in the past. They are doing their best to conduct the election and provide security in a single phase. I think there is not going to be any problem.
So if we look at the planning of the Election Commission, most of the highly sensitive polling stations are in the Madhes. So does it mean that the threats are more external, or what is it?
I think some constituencies and some districts are traditionally very sensitive, and some districts or constituencies have become sensitive because of the high-profile candidates are fighting for the elections, and some districts and constituencies are sensitive because of they are situated very close to the border. So I think the northern part, hilly and mountainous region, is relatively safer for conduct of elections, and much focus has been given in the plains because of there are more voters as well as the undesirable elements can move freely in the plains from point A to point B, and border is open. So this gives an opportunity for increased threats. But security agencies are focusing more on sensitive constituencies and districts because they have previous experiences on how to keep the security under their grip.
So how do the security organizations work in coordination in election security in Nepal? So how well equipped are the three organizations?
I think, as I have gathered, security agencies are jointly preparing their plans, making their coordination, and they are planning to jointly work, jointly operate in the election time. And Nepalese army has been given even more responsibility and authority, particularly in this election. Earlier, Nepalese army used to be in the third circle. This time, based on the developing situation, it can move from third to second or to first circle within no time. So this provides more sense of security in the polling stations and in any troubled areas of the country.
So, Dr. Silwal, as you yourself are a former Major General, from your experience, how does the morale of security personnel affect election security, and what keeps the forces motivated during tense times?
Yeah, morale, depends upon several factors. The first is the leadership, how leadership, raising their morals in terms of, training, in terms of, giving confidence, and also rules of engagement is very important. If they are given more authority, to use their power to control, to stabilize the situation, and if security agencies are working in collaborations and in close coordination, I think their morale would be high. And another factor is whether they are well equipped or not, whether they are given good logistics support or not. I think all these are addressed in this election, and Ministry of Finance has given adequate financial resources to operate, and the operational activities is going to be started from the first week of February. So I think this will help them to build confidence, since they will be on the field from the beginning of February. So they will be there for more than a month. So it will give them the sense of, knowledge of the terrain, knowledge of the people, of the villages, of the constituencies or districts. So this will, give them or raise their morale high. I don't think there will be any problem as far as morale is concerned. They have been given new adequate transportation, weapons and ammunitions, and also there will be helicopter or aerial support in case of any emergencies or any problem. I think the election will be very much fair and free and in a very secure environment.
So thank you for joining us and thank you for your insight. So that's a look at what it takes to keep elections safe. Moving on, where will the newly elected lawmakers of the lower house of Nepal's federal parliament convene as the Baneshwar-based building is in ruins? For the last 6 years, a new building is being constructed at the northeastern side inside Singhadarbar premises to accommodate both the houses. The Chinese contractor is racing against time to at least make it suitable to host the maiden meeting, if not complete the project in the next 45 days. A report.
The new House of Representatives, elected from the March 5 election, is very likely to hold its maiden session from the Federal Parliament building under construction within Singhadarbar premises, since the Baneshwar-based building is in ruins following the Gen Z movement. The Federal Parliament Secretariat says the remaining construction works are being carried out at war footing to complete in time.
सरकारले चाहिँ चैतको आधा-आधीसम्ममा अझ सकिन्छ भने त्योभन्दा पनि शीघ्र नै हामी 6 वटा जति भवन त्यहाँ हाम्रो टोटल 12 वटा भवन हो 6 वटा जति भवन चाहिँ उपलब्ध गराउन सकिने गरेर हामी तयारी गर्दै छौं र हामी उपलब्ध गराउँछौं भनेर सचिवालयलाई जानकारी गराएको अवस्था छ.
The Department of Building Construction has said the new building of the lower house will complete within the next 45 days. In the first phase, the meeting hall and related technical work for conducting sessions will be completed and handed over to the government.
अहिलेलाई हामीले तत्काललाई सबै काम रोकेर प्रतिनिधि सभाको बैठक बस्न सक्ने गरी प्रतिनिधि सभालाई फोकस गरेर हामीले तुरन्त त्यो बैठक सञ्चालनको लागि आवश्यक पर्ने पूर्वाधार सहितको लाई बढी फोकस गरेर अहिले निर्माण कार्यमा हामी फोकस गरेका छौं र हामीले चाहिँ अहिले 45 दिनको एउटा क्र्याश कोर्स जस्तै गरेर एउटा भनौं कार्ययोजना बनाएर निर्माण व्यवसायहरूलाई परिचालन गरेका छौं र हाम्रो दैनिक अनुगमन हामी एउटा टोली ती नै बस्छौं रात दिन बसेर हामी काम गरि नै रहेका छौं र प्रतिनिधि सभाको पहिलो बैठक हाम्रो नयाँ संसदबाटै सञ्चालन गर्नलाई हामी अहोरात्र खटिरहेका अवस्था छ.
However, the department has indicated that full completion of the building will take more time. According to the department, the physical progress of the building is currently 88%. The financial progress is about 78%. The foundation stone for the building was laid on September 17, 2019. Contract with the Chinese construction company was made to complete the building within 3 years' time. According to the initial agreement, construction was to be completed by October 2nd, 2022, but delays due to COVID-19 pandemic and other reasons have caused repeated extensions, now up to 6 times. The building will include the House of Representatives building, National Assembly building, along with other amenities to make it a complete federal parliament complex.
And that wraps up our Issue of the Day segment. Now, as wildfire risks rise, Nepal rolls out a new plan to tackle forest fires. Let's take a look at what you need to know after a short break. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Welcome back. With forest and wildfires intensifying worldwide and Nepal entering its most vulnerable dry months, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority has introduced a new action plan to address this risk. Bijeta Bhandari brings a report.
Forest fires are increasing across the world in scale, duration, and intensity in the last 25 years. According to the World Resources Institute, forest fires between 2001 and 2024 have burned more than twice the amount of trees. From record-breaking blazes in Canada to Russia, global data shows that forest fires are no longer isolated disasters but a recurring climate-driven crisis. They destroy ecosystems and forests, release massive carbon emissions, and threaten lives and livelihoods. Nepal is no exception to this. Among the many disaster risks Nepal faces, forest fires have emerged as a growing concern. An analysis of forest fire incidents over approximately 120 days from February to June shows that fires are triggered by both human activities and climate factors, allowing them to spread rapidly and cause significant damage. In 2023-24, Nepal recorded 965 forest fire incidents, the highest in recent years. Estimated damages reached nearly 874 million Nepali rupees. Surkhet and Bardia rank among the districts with the highest fire risk, while Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur fall under the low-risk category. Overall, 9 districts are classified as high risk, 13 as moderate risk, and 55 as low risk, providing a clear basis for prioritizing prevention, preparedness, and response. The National Forest Fire Preparedness and Response Action Plan 2026 that has been introduced this year focuses on strengthening public awareness and regulation, managing forest and forest-based fuels, reinforcing weather forecasting and early warning systems, among others. Implementation involves multiple agencies, including the Ministry of Forest and Environment, Division Forest Offices, and National Park and Reserve Offices concerned. Based on the data, the period between mid-March to May is the most vulnerable time in Nepal for the forest fires, some of which are natural, while many are intentional.
Seasonal weather system entering Nepal is expected to bring light rain to the Kathmandu Valley on Wednesday. According to the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology, clouds will appear from early morning, with rain likely in the afternoon. The system is also expected to affect Koshi province as it moves eastward. There is a chance of partial rainfall and light snowfall in the high hills and mountainous regions of Gandaki, Karnali and Sudar Pashchim provinces due to western winds. Last week's system caused rain and some snow in western Nepal, but was too weak to move to east. Now, high Himalayan cattle, the hybrid of yak and cow, are an integral part of rural life in eastern Nepal, where they are predominantly used as the beasts of burden. Despite potential, the high Himalayan cattle raising in Nepal's high hill regions is almost becoming a historic affair as the grazing lands are shrinking while rural roads mean vehicles are at your doorsteps. Rojina Rai with our local correspondent from Bhojpur, Ganesh Bista, explains more on this matter.
In Nepal's high hilly and mountainous regions, chauri, a hybrid of yak and cow, raising has long been a vital part of their livelihoods. For generations, local communities in the upper areas of Bhojpur in eastern Nepal have relied on this practice to support their families. However, this traditional occupation has begun to face serious challenges over time. Farmers say that the growing shortage of grazing land is helping the sector toward extinction. During the monsoon season, chauri are taken to high-altitude pastures. In winter, they are brought down to village or farmlands as herders follow a seasonal migration pattern. While this system has sustained chauri raising for decades, recent restrictions imposed by the community forest on grazing have made it increasingly difficult for farmers to continue their work. Areas that once had hundreds of sheds now have only a few remaining.
हामीलाई अब चाहिने भनेको चरण क्षेत्र हो अब चौरी गाई भनेको औले गाई अरु जस्तो अब घरमा लगेर बानेर त्यसलाई गर्ने खुवाउने उ पनि हुँदैन हैन यो भनेको अब एक दिनमा 10-15 किलोमिटर भन्दा टाढा चढ्न जान्छ त्यसले गर्दाखेरि अब त्यो एकै ठाउँमा थोरै सानो ठाउँमा हुँदैन त्यही भएर यो लोप हुने सम्भावना धेरै ठूलो छ
Although the government has introduced subsidy programs to support chauri farmers, farmers say that the shortage of grazing land remains their biggest challenge. In recent years, youths in the district have shown interest in embracing chauri farming, but ongoing grazing restrictions have raised serious concerns about the long-term sustainability of the business. The age-old tradition that has been supporting the livelihood of the rural people is crying for support, and that is from all the sectors. Rosina Rai with the local correspondent Ganesh Bista, Bhojpur, Nepal.
Now, the Embassy of Israel in Kathmandu marked International Holocaust Remembrance Day on January 27, 2026 with a memorial called Memory in the Living Room. The event honored the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust and reflected on lessons of dignity, human rights, and standing against hatred. Attended by government officials, diplomats, and media, the program included speeches, survivor testimonies, and musical tributes. Ambassador Moulik Eri Abbas emphasized that racial discrimination must never happen again, while survivors shared powerful personal accounts. The embassy reaffirmed its commitment to Holocaust education and promoting peace, tolerance, and respect for all. International updates coming up next, but before that, a quick look at the headlines once again. Nepal's Election Commission seeks clarification from candidates and parties for election code of conduct violation, receives only one response. Election Commission mandates parties and candidates to carry out financial transactions through banking channels, warns of legal action for violators. Concern over election security reverberates in the 0 hour of National Assembly meeting. 2 reports presented. Forest fires increasingly becoming disaster risk in Nepal. Authorities classify 9 districts as high risk ahead of the dry season. India and EU announced landmark trade deal. European Commission President and Indian Prime Minister call the deal historic. And Nepali national cricket team reaches India for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup. 3 T20 practice matches scheduled in Mumbai. North Korea fired what appeared to be 2 ballistic missiles toward the Sea of Japan on Tuesday, marking its second launch of the month. Japan's Coast Guard and South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed the missiles, which reportedly have already splashed down. The launches come just hours before South Korea's leader visited China for a summit and a day after a visit to Seoul by the Pentagon's third-ranking official, Elbridge Colby. Pyongyang has significantly increased missile testing in recent years. Ahead of its first ruling party Congress in 5 years, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered the expansion and modernization of the country's missile production, signaling ongoing military ambitions and preparations for the upcoming conclave. Now, the Russian Army's Chief of Staff, Valery Gerasimov, visits troops in eastern Ukraine, according to images released by the Russian Defense Ministry. The announcement of his visit came days after U.S. brokered trilateral talks between Russian and Ukrainian negotiators aimed at ending the nearly 4-year conflict. The next round is expected to take place on February 1st, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Russian Defense Ministry, however, did not disclose the exact location or date of Gerasimov's visit, citing security concerns. The conflict, which began with Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, has resulted in heavy casualties and widespread destruction. Firefighters in the Australian state of Victoria are battling at least 6 major fires as a record-breaking heat wave hits the country's southeast. 2 fires are currently burning at emergency level, according to local broadcaster ABC News. Several communities have been issued emergency warnings to evacuate, watch and wait, or shelter in place. Fire officials warn that the situation is changing rapidly and have asked locals to stay up to date with the latest warnings. The Bureau of Meteorology says that parts of the state have seen all-time temperature highs, with one area hitting a high of 48.9 degrees Celsius. Melbourne has recorded a temperature of 41 degrees Celsius. Business news coming up next after this short break.
US President Donald Trump has announced he is raising tariffs on South Korean imports to 25% after accusing Seoul of not living up to a trade deal reached last year. Trump said he would increase levies on South Korea from 15% across a range of products, including automobiles, lumber, pharmaceuticals, and all other reciprocal tariffs. Trump said South Korean lawmakers have been slow to approve the deal, while we have acted swiftly to reduce our tariffs in line with the transaction agreed to. South Korea says it had not been given official notice of the decision to raise tariffs on some of its goods and wanted urgent talks with Washington over the issue. It added that South Korea's Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwon, who is currently in Canada, will visit Washington as soon as possible to meet U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo's ongoing visit to China yielded more steps forward in economic cooperation when over 120 business leaders convened for a high-level meeting in Beijing, which also saw the signing of multiple agreements between the two sides. In a speech at the event, Orpo described China as a crucial overseas market for Finnish companies and highlighted broad potential for cooperation across multiple sectors. He also emphasized the importance of upholding international norms. Wang said that both China and Finland have long been advocates and defenders of multilateralism. He noted that China's vast market and diverse applicant scenarios, combined with Finland's strong innovation capabilities, create opportunities to expand cooperation in areas such as the circular economy, artificial intelligence, and information technology. Last year, bilateral trade between China and Finland exceeded $8 billion, while the stock of two-way investments surpassing $23 billion. Technology giant Meta is set to trial premium subscriptions for Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp users in the coming months in its latest experiment with paid services. The new offerings would give access to features including expanded artificial intelligence capabilities. Under the plan, access to platform's core services would remain free to use. The firm also plans to test subscriptions for features such as its Vibes video generation app, which the firm says can bring your ideas to life with new AI visual creation tools. The company described it as a limited test to understand whether the ability to publish an increased volume of posts with links adds additional value for subscribers. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced a multi-billion-dollar package as part of a series of measures aimed at lowering the costs of food and other essentials for low-income families. On Monday, Carney announced a 5-year 25% boost to the Goods and Services Tax (GST) credit that starts this year. The GST credit, which is being renamed the Canada Groceries and Essential Benefit, will provide additional significant support for more than 12 million Canadians, Carney said in a statement. The government will also provide a one-time top-up equivalent to a 50% increase this year to eligible residents. The measures would cost the government 3.1 billion Canadian dollars in the first year and between 1.3 billion Canadian dollars and 1.8 billion Canadian dollars in each of the following 4 years.
Time for sports update. In the ongoing NTV National League, Tribhuvan Army Club and Laliguras Club shared points after a goalless draw. In the match held at the NTV complex in Satdabato, neither team was able to score. With today's draw against Army, Laliguras has risen to the top of the points table. Winning their last 3 matches, Laliguras has climbed to the top. With 10 points, Pokhara's Laliguras, a newly promoted club in the National League, now leads the standings. In the second match, Planning Boys United defeated Satdabato Youth Club 4-2. Although Sovirov of Satdabato gave his team the lead in the 21st minute, Alex William of Planning Boys equalized. Roman Bujel put Planning ahead in the 63rd minute, but Fode Fofna scored against for Satdabato in the 69th minute to level the match. Faguram Tharu scored twice in the 79th and 83rd minutes, securing the win for Planning. With this victory, Planning Boys United has accumulated 7 points from 4 matches and has moved up to the 6th place in the league. The All Nepal Football Association (ANFA) has today announced a 23-member Nepali national under-20 women's team for a friendly match against China's Yunnan provincial youth team. The match is being held in coordination with the Chinese Embassy in Nepal and the National Sports Council on the occasion of the Chinese New Year. The friendly match will be held at Dasrat Stadium in Tripureshwar, Kathmandu on January 31st. The team includes Amita Bhol, Anisha Rai, Ashmita Gurung, Bhavana Pariyar, Brishna Chaudhary, Ganga Rokhaya, Jhuma Vishwakarma, Kavita Gurung, Karuna Burathoki, Kushum Khatiwara, Leela Joshi, and Meena Deuba. Similarly, Sajina Sangtan, Samiksha Magar, Sangeeta Adhikari, Sanimaya Low, Sarita Kumari Nath, Semihang Limbu, Simran Rai, Sujata Tamang, Poonam Chemjong, Purnima Rai and Sukriya Mia are in the team. The team's head coach is Yama Prasad Gurung. New Diamond Sports Club defeated Nepal Police Club to advance to the women's final of the 6th Tiger Cup National and International Invitational Club Championship. In today's match at the volleyball court of Pokhara Rangashala, New Diamond secured a 3-0 straight set victory over Police to claim their place in the final. New Diamond won the first set 25-11, the second set 25-19, and the third set 25-20. With this win, New Diamond reached the final with 9 points from 3 matches. Earlier today, Thailand defeated Tribhuvan Army Club 3-0 in straight sets, winning the first set 25-11, the second set 25-21, and the third set 25-16. The championship, organized by Tiger Group of Pokhara, Nepal, will continue until 31st of January, with 6 teams participating in the men's category and 5 teams in the women's category. The top 2 teams in the single round robin format will face off for the title. The women's final will be held on the 30th and the men's final on 31st. Now the weather update first from across Nepal and from the world. Now, before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Nepal's Election Commission seeks clarification from candidates and parties for election code of conduct violation, receives only one response. Election Commission mandates parties and candidates to carry out financial transactions through banking channels, warns of legal action for violators. Concern over election security reverberates in the 0 hour of National Assembly meeting. 2 reports presented. Forest fires increasingly becoming a disaster risk in Nepal. Authorities classify 9 districts as high risk ahead of the dry season. India and EU announced landmark trade deal. European Commission President and Indian Prime Minister called the deal historic. And Nepali national cricket team reaches India for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup. 3 T20 practice matches scheduled in Mumbai. That is all for the moment. Do join us through our social media and visit us at www.nepaltelevision.com for more information and news. I am April Singh Lama. Thank you for watching. Good night.